Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 27 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. And I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Lord Cognito. Lord, how are you today?
Doing good, man. The fellow Dukes, the Dukes are up. You know what I'm saying? We're back in the realm again. But I'm excited, man. A lot of good stuff to talk about, man. Let's get into it, brother.
Absolutely, dude. I wanted to thank everyone for their kind words last week. It was your first public episode as a part of the main host, I should say, compared to when you guested. And the words were incredibly kind and supportive. So thank you to everyone who's been hopping on board, who's supporting the change. I know it was a rip-roaring couple of weeks, and I hope you understand that I am eternally thankful to all of you who have stuck with us through this transition. It means a lot. And to those of you, the 12,000 of you who support us over on patreon.com/laststandmedia, especially thank you. We could not have done this without you. And for those who are there or have yet to sign up, we have early access for this show every Thursday, and it'll hit free feeds on Sunday, which is YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. We're happy to have you regardless. Like I said, it's been a bumpy couple of weeks, so I'm excited just to start, without getting too comfortable, coasting a little bit here. For those of you who are patrons, we just did Defining Duke Ultimate episode 23. Colin joined us for that. It was me, Colin. It was a really good episode, man. I was really happy with it. And
that was fire.
I know, right? And so we had this whole conversation about the trajectory of Xbox and PlayStation, covering the likes of indies, exclusives. We talked even on the likes of game streaming, Game Pass competitors. We covered literally everything. I thought it was such a well-rounded discussion that when you walk away, I don't think you'll have any questions. So we were really happy with that, Cog. It was a blast. Thank you for joining us for that.
Yeah, man, it was real fun. I said, I can't wait for the patrons to get a hold of that, man. Y'all not ready, man. It was some real passion going on in that discussion, man. Maddie, I love when the way you set it up. And
thank you, man.
Colin is Colin, just a legend. Yeah. So it was always good to have us three kind of powwowing. So yeah, check that out. The Final Duke Ultimate, it's fire.
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to request of the audience, just because our mobile ratings are fantastic. But I wanted to, as you refamiliarize yourself with the show, resubmit any. You can edit current ratings, so this isn't like an effort to get it boosted, but just to account for the new host and sort of what the show represents. I want it to be accurate, so when people tune in on mobile devices, they know what they're listening to. And that's, once again, thanks to you and your support that we're able to do that type of stuff. So just please do consider that if you have an extra couple minutes of your time. It's something I did want to specifically shout out. And I'll be sure to remind you every week. Don't worry. But enough of all that. You guys are tired of hearing that stuff. Let's get into the warm-up questions, where you can submit them on patreon.com/laststandmedia. We do 5 warm-up questions, 5 ending questions, and we'll throw your questions in during the new segments if it fits with the segments we're going to talk about, which some of you did. First one comes from Christian Longo. Hey, Maddie, and welcome, Cog. Recently, Bandai Namco's Scarlet Nexus released. I'm really enjoying the game, but that's besides the point. My question revolves around the amount of marketing Xbox did for this game. UK sales numbers for the game have recently revealed, and PlayStation is currently dominating, with PlayStation 5 accounting for 58% of the sales and PS4 bringing in 21%. That's close to 4 of every 5 copies sold being versions for Sony platforms. So my question basically is, how did this happen? The game was revealed in an Xbox show. The demo was released on an Xbox first and had Xbox's Twitter account hyping it up for months. Do you fellas think this could be a wait until it comes to Game Pass mentality, or maybe it's just because people prefer JRPGs on Sony platforms? So ecstatic for the energy Cog will bring to the show, and Maddie, you are the man. Wow, thank you. Side note that I wanted to add in here, because I did some extra research on the numbers, is the Japan sales are also out for Scarlet Nexus. So we have UK and Japan. For Japan, it says 20,160 copies were sold on PlayStation 4 and 11,008 copies were sold on PlayStation 5 for a combined opening week total of 31,168 retail copies. This was reported by Famitsu. So far, no Xbox numbers have been officially reported. So we can only guess around, but the percentages in certain regions and the numbers in certain regions are telling to a degree because Xbox is growing in Japan, but I don't know if they're selling like 30,000 combined copies of a third party title type of large in Japan yet. So what do you think led to maybe some of this? We don't want to call it a fail because I don't think it is. I think with Xbox being so US centric that those numbers would be the most telling if their marketing was worthwhile or not. But what do you make of PlayStation managing to outmuscle the marketing that Xbox has done, at least in other regions?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. Shout out to Christian. I thought it was an excellent question. Two reasons. One, I remember seeing the game, and I believe it debuted at the Xbox third party showcase.
Yeah, the gameplay showcase that had no gameplay.
That had no gameplay. But at the end of the day, it was like, it's one of those things where I was actually impressed. I was like, you know what? This is really cool. Kind of in that a game in a genre that they generally don't have a lot of. And I thought the art style, it almost gave me Astral Chain vibes because I'm a big Astral Chain guy from
I knew I made the right pick.
You already know where we here with Platinum. So it's like, so I was excited about it. I played the demo and really impressed me more. So to the question, what's happening here? I think it could be a combination of things. I, for one, thought it was going to be in Game Pass. So part of me was like, well, I'm going to wait and see what was going on. Now, I'm not going to say that accounts for everyone. But to your earlier point, Maddie, I think that, these are games that are typically not synonymous with Xbox, right? And these are games that are associated with PlayStation. So I still think their base is stronger there as Xbox tries to get their foothold in that specific genre. So that's what I think it is early. I'm not going to get too crazy. And obviously, we still need more numbers to come out in the US and the regions where Xbox is a bit stronger. But what do you think, man, in reference to this whole thing?
Yeah, it's kind of surprising in a way that despite all they've done, that they didn't see the big pop of numbers across the globe. With that said, I fell in that same boat, and well, you said we can't speak for everyone. I think a lot of people felt the same way, that this sort of had the Game Pass stink on it, man. Like, it really did, right? Like, the showcase it was revealed on, a lot of those games were to be exclusive, timed, or complete exclusives. They were to be Game Pass games. And then Scarlet Nexus was the only game with gameplay and all that stuff. But it was assumed to be something like that. And the way it was handled, I just think their reveal, I wonder if something fell apart behind the scenes. Like, maybe they were planning to do this. Because I could have sworn when they first revealed it, there was only an Xbox logo at the end. And so I remember reporting in Ham Radio Podcast, like, oh yeah, it's going to be exclusive. People went, no, it's actually coming out their platforms. They did a separate trailer and it had all the console logos. I went, okay, that was strange. Because I distinctly remember making that mistake. And so I think a lot of people saw that and assumed Scarlet Nexus was going to be exclusive or a Game Pass game. And especially leading up to launch, I mean, this game looked great, reviewed well enough, so it wasn't bad where they shouldn't have been confident with it. But especially for a new IP, Bandai was really quiet about it. So I think a lot of Xbox fans were under the assumption, and I think the correct assumption, like, hey, it looks like this might come to Game Pass. This needs a pop. Like, this doesn't have a lot of noise surrounding it. There's not really much marketing. So maybe they're just going to collect their money and take the Game Pass route and get more people in and talking about it, which I still think would have been really wise for them to do. They came out and denied Game Pass rumors. So then it released and here we are now. And I think a lot of Xbox fans just had that sort of wait for Game Pass mentality. And I do wonder how that will impact other future releases. You got to wonder. I think this is a specific case where it's revealed in their showcase and just the optics of it. It's the optics, man. It's so key. But the way I was looking at it, and I think many others was like, oh, yeah, this is probably going to be a Game Pass game. Cool. Like, that's a good get. It's JRPG. It's new. It doesn't have like a history. So they're not taking away from someone. Like, all the cards sort of lined up and then nothing happened. Yeah, just
to add on real quick, and then remember, after the E3 Microsoft Bethesda showcase, they had the second showcase, shout to Paris, the one that Paris hosted.
Yeah.
And if you remember, they did a deep dive with Scarlet Nexus, with the devs. Like, they gave them a lot of screen time and marketing. So I was actually surprised by that. But I think to your point, you said it well. Like, I think it's one of those things that I assumed that it was going to be Game Pass. At one point, like you, I thought maybe it was an Xbox exclusive when it was announced on that stage. So maybe with the layers kind of coming off between people who say, hey, I'm going to wait, and, PlayStation fans say, oh, wow, it's coming to our platform. let's
Yeah.
go get it. Yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, let's see. But yeah, I was surprised. I want to see the US numbers when that comes out, but it
Right.
was very, very surprising.
Yeah. I do also think, just to add to Christian's question, is I do
Mhm.
think people prefer currently JRPGs on a Sony platform because they
Yes.
support them well. It's like, for example, Tales of Arise is coming to Xbox this year. And that's the first Tales of game since Vesperia to
Mm.
come to the system. And so it's been a while. So
Yes.
they're getting better, but Sony really grabbed hold of that. So Xbox is going to have to work and spend to really unroot the assumption that
Agreed.
there's no JRPGs there.
Agreed.
All right. Next comes from Nikolai Hansen Turton. Dear Maddie and Lord Cognito, I'm writing to discuss the situation with Psychonauts 2 on PlayStation. The upcoming Double Fine game is set to release on PC, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PS4 with a Mac OS and Linux version soon after release. Noticeably missing is a native PS5 version of the game. While the game can be played via PS4 backwards compatibility, it will undoubtedly miss many features like DualSense, 4K 60, and ray tracing. They aren't even adding HDR10 support, which is supported on the 2013 PS4 model. I am disappointed with Double Fine/Xbox and the lack of media coverage, as they are seemingly abandoning PlayStation players who back the game on Fig like myself. Thoughts? Have a wonderful rest of your week, Nikolai. I actually dug into this, and there wasn't much chatter on it. What do you make of no native PS5 version for a Double Fine owned by Xbox
Yeah.
with Psychonauts 2?
No, this is good. This is a good question. I was actually this is news to me in reference to that. Part of me thinks that, you know, with development, again, I don't know the specifics of the development with Psychonauts, but like, did something change, mid-development once they were acquired? That's the first thing I was thinking. And then the second thing I was thinking is, as far as the PS5, we know it's a PS4 version, right? We know it's a base one. So my question then becomes, from the back compatibility as far as being able to transfer things up. There's been issues with Sony as far as smart delivery and things of that nature. So I wanted to know, from a technical standpoint, if something played into that and maybe it comes later, because we've seen some instances where the back compat version, of a Sony game doesn't necessarily come immediately, or there's some issue, right? So that's my curiosity there. Just the combination of that combined with the Microsoft deal, if any one of those two factors, played a part.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. It's hard for me to add really anything on top of it, other than I can't help it at times galaxy brain a little bit and go, no PS5 version. One thing that I will throw out there in all seriousness is, we did learn through Cyberpunk, if anything, that a lot of SKUs handled in development can really, I don't know, it can get very complicated, as we saw. Maybe it doesn't lead to the broken mess every time that Cyberpunk has, but a lot of developers have cited that it's been tough to work across 7, 8 of them. And so I understand why you may be inclined to drop one. For me, I found it interesting that maybe it wouldn't be a PS5 version, but instead Mac and Linux, but maybe that's part of the Fig backer campaign. But still an interesting question nonetheless. And I think the reason you're not seeing media coverage is because, I don't want to say, oh, what's the big deal? But this can be fixed very easily with a update. So
Yeah.
it is one of those things where, as long as it's on PlayStation, the bigger problem would be if Xbox came in, they sort of screwed over the Fig backers and said, well, guess what? You're not even getting it on PlayStation now. We're locking this down. Like, that would have been the bigger problem, of course, and would have led to just bad PR for the game. So
Yeah.
I think they can maybe rectify things with an update, but I understand your frustration that stuff like DualSense won't be making strong use of it.
Absolutely.
Dylan Hardy's our next question. Hello, fellas. Since this is the 20th anniversary of Xbox and Halo, I personally hope there will be a 20th year limited edition console or controller. Hopefully a controller at the very least. My question is, what has been your favorite limited edition Xbox from the past 20 years? Mine would have to be Gears of War 3's edition. Thanks, and have an A1 day. Thank you, Dylan. You rubbed your hands immediately, so you got an answer.
Yeah, I like this one. Oh,
you a hardware collector in general? Do you just like to get the limited editions of stuff?
I'm generally not.
Okay.
But this one got me. It was the Xbox One S red Gears console.
Oh yeah, that one's sick. Yeah,
Bro, the one where you push the button and it make the sound, dun, 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 dun.
yeah,
Bro, it hurt my heart. Man, that one to move that one, like to move that into the bedroom, it hurt my heart. And then to kind of replace it with the Series
Yep.
S, what we
Yep.
affectionately call Little Man. But yeah, man, yo, I love that console. Like it with the aesthetic. Then they had the gear icon. It had the unique sounds. I just missed out on getting the matching Elite 2 that was also a red Gears controller. Anything red you got me, but that one was fire, literally. Like,
yeah.
I love that console. What about
I
you?
own that one as well. That was a really good one. Yeah, because like you'd press like the only thing I didn't like is you'd hit the eject button to be like a locust scream. So like my dog would always bark because he'd hear it and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. And he's like, all right, relax, right? It's okay. You know, I'm just ejecting the disc. For me, it's got to be the R2D2 Xbox 360. I always wanted it, right? I always wanted it. And this year I actually bought one because I was like, Xbox's backwards compatibility program, it's sort of stunted a little bit. That's fine. They're doing stuff with FPS boost. I think that makes sense for them as a model for business. And I also think it makes more sense for the consumer just trying to play recent release games the best they possibly can. So I bit the bullet and I finally got something that I've wanted since high school. And I love it, man. Like the sounds, all the R2D2 sounds, the C3PO controller. When the disc pops out, there's a little text that says, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." Just all these Easter eggs just throughout the entire console. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. It's so nice. I've never owned a slim Xbox 360, so that was also kind of a cool moment, but that's 100% my favorite. Like, I am also like you. I remember people geeking out over the Spider-Man PS4, and I was like, this looks cool, but the only type of console I may collect a piece of hardware where it's got cool designs on it is probably like a handheld because you can see it. So I've never been like a custom controller guy because my hands are below my waist and I'm looking up at the TV, and so I'm not looking down at it. When you're playing handheld like Game Boy Advance or DS, whatever, you're seeing the console and the screen. So it's just, to me, like you can see the thing you've customized or that you purchased.
I see the mindset.
Yeah, right. So at least with that, I would dive in. But with the rest of the consoles, I'm not too crazy about them.
No doubt.
Number 4 comes from Army of Knave. Hello, Duke and Lord. I like that. I have a lighthearted write-in this week. So with the new co-host, I felt like it'd be fun with the audience to pick his brain while also watching you two collaborate in real time with a fun scenario. So here it is. Microsoft has just purchased NetherRealm, developers of Mortal Kombat and Injustice, for this singular purpose. Make a crossover fighter in the style of their recent MK and Injustice games, using characters and settings from all of the Microsoft's now-owned IP. Who makes the cut to be on this prestigious roster and why? Also, Jeff Steitzer, the announcer for Halo Multiplayer, is the announcer for this theoretical game, and I'll die on this hill. Have an unseasoned chicken. This is a Sacred Symbols joke, by the way. I'm warning you now. I don't get this.
Unseasoned chicken?
Have an unseasoned chicken kind of day, but make sure that the chicken, the Sony, it hasn't been. Wait, make sure it isn't the chicken the Sony boys have been fucking. I don't know. I don't even know.
Where he at with this?
I don't know, man.
This is inside Sacred Symbols.
Yeah, I must have missed this episode. I mean, before obviously working with Colin, like I listened a lot, and I hear them like the questions always end with, "Be sure to keep fucking that chicken." I'm like, what are they fucking talking about? I'm like, what happened?
You gotta get the context.
Yeah, I don't have any. So hearing this, I'm just like, what happened? All right, so you and I are sitting here. We're reporting on the news. Microsoft just bought NetherRealm. They're making a fighting game. It's a crossover between all Microsoft IP. Who makes the cut?
Come on, man. You already know what this is. We got to get the matchup that everybody wants to see. And you are you're Lord Bethesda, so you should know where I'm going. The matchup everybody want to see. Doomslayer, Master Chief.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
At first, I thought you were going to say Dovahkiin. I'm not going to lie. At first, I was like,
of course. I mean, I was going to let you get into that bag next. But I just want to see, ever since that acquisition, I would like to see them in the same game in any vein. So to his question, if it's Microsoft properties kind of against each other, then that, or if he's talking, NetherRealm wants to throw Mortal Kombat in the mix, I would just love to see them both in the mix,
Yeah.
and I could already the way
Doomslayer would be
NetherRealm.
a great MK character.
Oh, bro, it screams MK.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Wow,
Bro,
that'd be a
I'm
great
thinking
guess.
like I think in Mortal Kombat, like I'm a Mortal Kombat guy, and I think like like the robots they have like the Cyrax and the all that sector and all that stuff and the abilities. And so I'm just my mind's just going with the moveset. Like so those two, I just feel like they would really fit well in it. But what you got? What you got? Who you got next?
Oh man. Let's see here. I would like to see. I'm thinking of a specific face-off. Let's say.
Let's go.
Let's say I want to say like Banjo. I want to throw Banjo in the mix, right? Okay. And we've already seen him in Smash, so Banjo's got to be tossed into this Microsoft crossover fighter. And here's the thing: what's cool about Smash is you'll see these unlikely characters just beating the life out of each other. So like, I want to see Banjo square up with I'm gonna say like Corvo Atano from Dishonored, and just this supernatural assassin versus like Mr. Like just going back and forth. That's just I would kill to see that, man. I don't know what Xbox is doing. They got to go do this now, man. There's so many. Of course, Dovahkiin versus like a Brotherhood of Steel Soldier and Power Armor. I'd love to see that. What other IP are there? Would a Forza Horizon car make the
I know,
cut?
like a car or like like you have a Forza background. I'm like, my mind's going. So it's like, I also want to see Senua. I want to see Senua in there. Some, you know what I'm saying? I want to see her in there. You know, there's so many properties, like Joanna Dark. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, just it's so many cool characters. And I was just thinking, again, I'm dipping in your bag. It would be kind of like how you talk a Banjo. It would kind of be funny, like to have, I don't know what you do with Fallout, but I was thinking like Pit-Boy. Pit-Boy would be savage. Like, just make him extra savage. Because Pit-Boy's funny.
I always was vouching for Vault Boy to be a Smash character, because I was thinking to myself, if you look at all the perk images that are in Fallout 4, this guy does a wild amount of stuff. Like he's represented in a wild amount of ways. He's a medic. He's a brutal killer. He's a mysterious stranger. Like you can just do everything with this guy. He would be an incredible Smash character. They gave him a me costume. So I'm like, all right, whatever, fine. But dude, 100% he would be great. Just make him a brutal savage. Just blow people's minds. I would be all over that.
Oh my God, I love it.
Let's see here. What else do they got? They got Battletoads they could dip into a little bit. We saw one of the Battletoads characters, an Arbiter, make it into Killer Instinct. So maybe they bring those back. They could throw in Hero from Fable.
Oh,
that'd be a decent one.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm trying to just comb through all the IP and what makes sense.
We got to throw Marcus. Gears.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Bro, we bugging, right? We got to throw the Gears characters. And a special shout out, because I'm hardcore. I'm Gears Tactics. I rep Gears Tactics hard. I got to shout out my man Gabe. I love that whole roster. Gabe, Sid, Makai, they're great characters. So I would always push for them. I was happy to see them in Gears 5 in the multiplayer. But yeah, the Gears universe is so many rich characters.
Here's the thing, right? It is, we're talking Microsoft, but I'll dip my toes into third party a little bit, or we should together. The reason I say that is because Smash isn't all made of just Nintendo characters. A lot of what makes it is watching Hero from Dragon Quest square off with Ridley from Samus or from Metroid. Sorry. And so if you could just pick one third party character, does anyone in particular come to mind for you where you're like, this is a character I want to see in a fighting game? It's hard to make a pick, right? Because we get so many guest characters like 2B from Niers and Soul Calibur 6, and like that would have been one of my picks, but that was pretty dope. Does anyone come to mind for you right off the bat? If not, I mean, it's fine. It's kind of an off the wall question.
It's a good question, man. There's so many. Damn, which one? You know what's funny? Because like Smash has so many cool ones. So I'm trying to think of something different outside of the Smash universe. We got my Tekken. I can't think of blanket, man. What you got?
No, it's funny. I thought you were gonna look at your own T-shirt and pull something from that with the little Titanfall.
I mean, like the only thing is like they're so beastly. Like you can't really pick a pilot. Like you can't have preparing for like that would have to be the special move. Or maybe the pilot, right? And then that's like his super, and then stand by for Titanfall. You know what I'm saying? That would be fire. But I'm trying to think.
I was actually looking in the reflection. I saw the Heartless up here from Kingdom Hearts. And I was like, yeah, Sora for sure. Sora from Kingdom Hearts would still be my pick. That'd be good to see.
Oh, I got one. I mean, if they it initially was on an Xbox platform. I don't know, and they used to have a good relationship. And I am Lord Cognito, the gaming ninja. So I gotta go with like a Ninja Gaiden, man. Like I don't know if that could, you know what I'm
Dude,
saying?
yeah,
Ryu
Ryu? Yeah,
Hayabusa, you know what I'm
absolutely.
saying? Like, come on, like
Yeah,
that would
yeah,
be kind
yeah.
of fire, you know?
He's in Dead or Alive, so I mean, pull him
Hmm.
over, give him a little
Yes,
more representation, a little more eyes on the product, get more people
yes,
caring about this thing that everyone just forgot was amazing. I mean, have you
yes.
played the trilogy yet for the
I haven't played the trilogy yet. Was it the black one?
they re-released the trilogy
Yeah.
last month and I didn't even know it
I
came out.
didn't. Yeah, they did. I knew about it. I just didn't get to it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I was so
I gotta get
excited
to it.
for it and then it came out and I went, wait, what? I missed
But
it?
yep, it's bro.
Passed me by, man. I know.
So many games.
Last question before we get into the news comes from Max Gale. Hello, Lords and Dukes. Here's a question regarding Game Pass, but on a different take. How has Xbox Game Pass affected your spending on other hobbies or on gaming, Xbox or other platforms? We talk about the savings you get with all the entries you can get, but with the savings, do you put that somewhere else for your enjoyment? I personally started buying more indie games, just bought Beasts of Maravilla, sorry, and Death's Door, as well as I started investing in my other hobby, which is driving events. I live in England, so my goal is to hit all the racetracks in 5-hour driving distance, hopefully over the next 5 years. I have 3 out of 10 so far, so it'll be a while. Thank you for writing in, Max. This is a great question. We always talk about great value. You know, they've saved us money.
Mm-hmm.
Cog, we're enthusiasts. Have they saved us money or have we actually spent more?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that I've actually done the indie scene as well. I've also done, actually surprised because of saving money on Game Pass. I've actually bought games from other platforms, Sony, $70. You know what I'm saying? Because of the fact that I have this extra income. Because sometimes you get so surprised, you go, "Oh, that's in Game Pass. Oh, good. I ain't got to. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got to spend that." But
wash your hands
yeah,
of it. Yep.
absolutely. So for me, it's been the indie scene. I've been really hitting that up. A lot of stuff that I missed on the indie scene. There was this silly one. It's an older game, but I love it. It fits the Lord's theme. It's called Yes, Your Grace. It is the
It's
most
a great game.
Oh, you play? Oh,
Yeah.
bro, it's hilarious. And you just sit there, the subjects come up to you, and yep, I'll
It's
just
so
like,
good.
yeah, I gotta do it. And just like certain little indie games that I may have missed out on. I've done that, and again, all other platforms. That's what I've kind of done.
Right. For me, it's been game collecting. So technically it's going back into games, but sometimes I'll play a game on Game Pass and go, I really like this, and buy it physically because I just like to build my collection. So that is one thing that happens where incidentally, yeah, money saved, but also money spent in the same place. I mean, but also just I like to collect, Game Boy Advance games. It's my favorite system of all time. And so like I'll take $40 and put it towards Lord of the Rings Third Age on Game Boy Advance complete box instead of going and buying, I don't know, Psychonauts 2 or whatever comes out. I don't know. And that money saved goes just somewhere else. That or food. DoorDash with them taxes, they have been expensive. I have made these $20 in meal investments and suddenly it's 35. So all I'm saying is Game Pass has saved me there for sure.
Yes,
I'm a big DoorDash guy, especially the pandemic.
You DoorDash? I use DoorDash as my backup. That's my backup. But
what's your primary?
Uber Eats.
Uber Eats. Okay. Yeah, I get that. I used to use Uber. Uber Eats was my travel app. Like if I was in LA for a preview event or something, then Uber Eats gets broken out. But here locally, DoorDash. Yeah, that's my go-to. They're quick, easy, and
yes.
I've only had messed up orders on Uber Eats. That's the thing.
Really?
Is it the opposite for you? I'm guessing, right?
It's probably. I think it's just based on location and region.
Yeah.
What it is DoorDash's my experience has been good. My only issue is just that the restaurants and the stuff that I like tend to be in Uber. It's Uber Eats. So I'm like, damn, I just wish, that kind of thing. But I'm with you on that.
For me, it's to do like I'll be sitting there, at these preview events because you're not home. You don't have like access to snacks. You got to order everything. So I'll be sitting there, by the way, not complaining at all. Happy to be there. But, I'll be sitting there and, I'm like, all right, let me get this food. And they'll like deliver the wrong burger. Like it'll come with like a wrong side dish. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll eat it, but like I have no other choice at this point.
That's the worst too, when you're hungry and they mess it up, bro. Yeah. Oh, we get it.
I've been to hotels where that happens too, and there's like no food served there, so you're just sitting
and
there.
And you're done. Yeah, your joy's
gotta eat it. You gotta eat it. No choice.
I feel you.
All right. We got some exciting news to dive into this week, some Xbox stuff, but our first two are going to really focus more on reports across the industry on some pretty big topics, one of them being the future of Grand Theft Auto. So let's get it started with number one. Fans have long wondered how long Grand Theft Auto 5 will hang around until after a new entry in the series that always seems to find its way onto the sale charts. Industry insider Tom Henderson reported the game will arrive 2024 or 2025, to which Jason Schreier of Bloomberg and Andy Robinson of Video Game Chronicles corroborated. Henderson also sprinkled in details on the game for fans to discuss. This would leave a whopping 6-year gap between Red Dead Redemption 2 and the next full release from the studio, GTA re-releases withstanding. The game is reported to be a modern take on Vice City, the Miami-inspired location for the GTA franchise. Interestingly, the game's map will be altered over time in the same way that a live service game like Fortnite would. Given how early it is in the project, there is room for change with these details, so do take them with a grain of salt. Peter Sismagoo writes in, hello, Marvelous Maddie and Ludicrous Lord Cog. What are your takes on Grand Theft Auto 6 coming no sooner than 2025? By the way, I totally called it that the game would take place in Vice City, with the logo being just GTA Vice City, VI in capital letters, of course, to symbolize the Roman numeral 6. Hearing rumors it will feature a dynamic map similar to Fortnite, I'm worried the game will not feature a single-player campaign. What do you think? If that's the case, I will only forgive them if they release a GTA 3 full-on remake as well. Maddie, the work you put into this podcast is well appreciated, and thank you for introducing me to the wonderfully sexy gentleman that sits right next to you on our screens. Looking forward to hundreds and hundreds of episodes with you two, and I mean, hey, great timing for that. You know, Cog got a nice cut, like he's looking great, man. So
yeah, Maddie waited for it too.
Yeah.
Salute the man.
So, GTA 6, man. It's kind of wild to be talking about this when, as I said at the top of this, 5 is always in the top of the sales charts. We're sitting there going, oh, they don't need to do another GTA for like another decade. They'll be fine. They'll keep selling it, and they'll go work on Cog. I've been wanting it, man. Bully 2. No Bully 2, though.
Bully 2, I'm with you.
I'll bitch about that later, but we got GTA 6. Let's talk about what we have.
Yes.
So what do you make of some of these details? Really, the evolving map seems to be the standout point of discussion for you. For people.
It's interesting, man. I mean, actually, I don't mind it. It sounds pretty cool. You know, a little new take on it. You know what I'm saying? I know people getting worried of getting a Fortnite bag and stuff like that, but I think it's actually pretty cool. And to his question in reference to, I don't think I would be shocked if they got rid of a single player component. I do know that the multiplayer is the gift that keeps giving. We look at those sales charts. We look at that MPD, and I'm like, Grand Theft Auto is still up there. Like, it is insane. Yeah. Like, I've never seen legs like that in the industry. So, yeah, I mean, and to that point, you can't really blame them for like, hey, they're still playing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
No, they're doing the right thing, I think. You know, I mean, they released Red Dead in the middle of all that, and Red Dead was great, you know, and I mean, I understand it as an Elder Scrolls fan, right? You know, here we are 10 years after Skyrim, and it's probably going to be until like close to 2030 that we see Elder Scrolls 6. So like, I totally get where GTA fans who are hardcore about this franchise, how they feel. I understand, but to me, yeah, I don't know if they're going to drop single player for this. And we have another story after this, which indicates more live servicey design elements in a seemingly single player environment. And it's sort of up in the air on how this is all going to be handled. So that's why I wanted to frontline both these articles, just because they're so close together, it seems, in design. Obviously, I will say, because we're going to talk about Ubisoft after this, I trust Rockstar much more than anybody when it comes to handling this. Yes. I think there's potential in the idea of an evolving map. As an RPG fan, I can't help but think of something like, hey, what if Elder Scrolls 6 comes out? I imagine this is what Todd Howard meant by waiting for technology. And side quest lines could evolve. Like characters' stories don't really end. They keep going. It's alluring in one way because RPGs are great because you play them and then you replay them and you see how different things happen. Right. But there's also something kind of cool about a single player game where its world doesn't just stop in one time frame, but it keeps going. So what do you make? Because I'm very conflicted. I'm a little worried though, because I feel it's a slippery slope. That's what's happened. There's potential here, but this is a slippery slope.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm conflicted. The tech part of me loves it, right? The tech part of me says, yo, you just beat this big open world game, and now the game continues. It lives on, maybe dynamic quest, some type of online functionality. But then there's a part of me that says, you know about the monetization of the industry,
Mm,
you know about, structure. And sometimes there's a beauty to having a finite, start and end, right?
yeah.
And I'm with you, man. I'm torn because I'm just worried that, the powers that be, publishers, listen, monetization model, right?
Yeah,
Yo, let's
absolutely.
get, $5 a month. You get that online, you get that continual quest of the Elder Scrolls saga. Oh, you know what I mean? I'm exaggerating, I'm embellishing,
But
but
dude, it's not unrealistic.
and you look at which we're going to talk about Ubisoft, and you look at what's going on there and their transition there. I mean, they were already putting in the monetization model heavy in the
Hmm.
Creed games as far as progression and things like that. So it's you said the best word. It's a slippery slope because on one hand, it could be done for good for games that we love. On other hand, I'm worried about a boardroom and a guy telling the dev, "You need to monetize this some way, somehow. We need to get reoccurring revenue from these single player games," and that's the part where it gets sketchy for me.
Yeah. And exactly that, right? It just, I don't foresee a developer making a single player game unless you're Rockstar, who literally has the revolving money doors of GTA Online. Them withstanding, I don't expect other developers to create a single player environment and pound away with quests and new locations to explore, which we're going to touch on Ubisoft in a second on how that's going to be handled. All these different things, and just add it for free. There's got to be something that buoys the game and gives it its revenue to then spend on what's going to be added. That's just how it works. That's how it's always worked. So with that in mind, let's get into number two, which, this all connects into one big conversation. A report came from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier on the future of Assassin's Creed. Codenamed Infinity, this latest entry sets out to create a massive online platform that will evolve over time. So just note the wording there. He used massive online platform, whereas GTA was evolving map. This means the game will take place in multiple settings rather than one, with room to expand into others in the months and years to follow its release. This will be a combined effort of the Ubisoft Montreal and Quebec teams, who typically set out to do their own entries in the franchise. The game reportedly won't be out until 2024, and Jason says he doesn't know how or if multiplayer will be implemented, which once again I found interesting because it's online, so you can have a single player game in a way, but you still got to be connected online. So there's a difference there. It's a very tight line to walk. Ubisoft has also been the home to a toxic workplace environment for years. A case so widely known that hashtag Ubisoft, hold Ubisoft accountable, became a trending topic and led to the rise of coverage on the company's dark secrets. In response to any changes made, a Ubisoft spokeswoman had the following to say in response to Jason's story. Any employee that had allegations and remained at Ubisoft has had their case rigorously reviewed by a third party and were either exonerated or underwent appropriate disciplinary actions, she said. Employees who have been under investigation would not remain at Ubisoft if results of investigations warranted termination. Despite this, several men accused of abuse remain in lead roles within the company. So they say that they were either under appropriate disciplinary action, but yet they are still in lead roles. So those two do not line up. We'll obviously
Mhm.
touch on that in a few.
Yeah.
But let's continue our conversation here while all the thoughts are in mind of now we got Ubisoft, who's they came out with their own little post after all this saying, hey, this is what's happening with the future of Assassin's Creed. And they talked about Infinity. They've been working on this post for about a week now, so it really wasn't directly in response to Jason's story. But what do you think of now we got two big developers taking a dive into this evolving
hmm
format?
hmm
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, Ubisoft, I'm not surprised.
yeah, yeah.
This to me, I felt they were leading to this way for a while. Um, Look, this makes sense. I think they're gonna, They talk about the two Quebec teams and having this type of model. The name, it's funny. Like I just think the name Infinity. Like we are going to be here for a long time. And
dude, Halo again, doing this, like they want you there forever.
Like you just gonna live. You know what I'm saying? So for me, look, I'm always willing to give people a shot.
Of course.
This is the type of stuff I don't like. I already played Destiny, man. I already got my online, forever kind of evolving world kind of thing. Now, for people who love the universe, this may appeal to them. I just feel I'm concerned for the person who loves that single player finite experience. Hi. There you go. I'm worried about you, Maddie. Like, this doesn't scream. Like, if you love Assassin's Creed and you're hearing Infinity, are you ever going to get a definitive story from like when I remember when Desmond and all that stuff when I used to play it? Because I fell out of it when I felt the games were getting too big. It was just like Valhalla. I was just completely intimidated. When I had OCD with all things on the map and stuff like that. So I just felt it was getting too big. But some people love it. They want to be immersed, right? But at least there's a start, there's an end, right? Now you're talking this live service, and that's my bag. Live service are soul suckers. They want you to be completely invested. There's going to be a monetization model. You best believe in this. You know what I mean? And people better get ready. It's up to them. I'm always willing to give people a shot just because I haven't seen it. For me to just trash it, I haven't seen it. But to leave one model and then completely go into this, they may get backlash for that. But I'm very concerned. Where are you with the Assassin's Creed franchise and just in general about all this?
I like Assassin's Creed. I don't like this because one of the things is I've always said in my reviews, like I understand the complaint about bloat. Like I loved Odyssey, but I said like this game's bloated. Valhalla, I thought was one of the better entries. The DLC and post-launch support has sort of ruined that for a lot of fans. But at its base release, I thought this game was actually really good. One of the best in the series, in fact. I just liked its story a lot, its characters, its world. It was just a really fun romp for me. But to your point, they eventually ended. And there's some hilarious level of irony that Ubisoft, a company known for making bloated games, is going to make a game that doesn't fucking end when people already think that their game doesn't end. There's something special about that you only find in gaming. And I really was shocked when I read this. Not because of the design philosophy, but really I was like, your games are already so big. So big. That doesn't even get me into my main point, which we touched on Elder Scrolls 6. I worry about my RPGs because they need to end. I'm sorry. I know some people like the live service stuff. I respect it. I respect like you like your Destiny. There are games for that. Games need to end though. People don't got time for this shit. They don't. They do not have time for this. Games need to end. Now, if it's like, I'm going to separate them because Infinity sounds, from Assassin's Creed, sounds more live servicey like we've expected. If Rockstar is doing an evolving map where, I mean, there are so many cool little stories that people are still uncovering in Red Dead, where you can go to like a cabin and find like a haunted, something like haunted cabin or mysteries there. And there's these untold stories in the world. If they're doing that and they're peppering those in, and the world truly is evolving that way quietly, and like I said, it's not built on this online platform, but more so just like you're downloading updates. And it's not like you're connecting to other people's worlds and it's like shared world. That's fine, man. Because Rockstar does some phenomenal player world interactions. So that sounds like it's in their wheelhouse. I trust them. They do good work. But what I see Ubisoft doing, and I just see Rockstar doing it, you got to imagine these aren't the only two doing it. A lot of these companies chase the trend. We saw what happened with Battle Royale. I would not be surprised if EA eventually dipped their toes in this once they've caught wind of it. Just with how they love they love their multiplayer, they love their live service. Then they went back to single player. They're like, Bioware, we're going to let you do your thing. Respawn, we're going to let you do your thing. Now they're going to get a sniff of, hey, we can have our cake and eat it too. We can do our single player and our live service. And they're like, oh yeah. Like, and now they're going to rub their hands a little bit. I'm concerned, man. I'm concerned for sure. Yeah, it's the traditionalist in me talking. Absolutely. But I am 100% worried for single player games in a way, not doomsday cataclysmic type worry, but I am sitting here like, all right, we're gonna really have to just love our indies big time now, and our double A, like our games from Focus Home Interactive, who maybe aren't gonna go as big and broad. Those are the companies you still want to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. That's why, the finish your point. I'm excited when I see the acquisitions Microsoft makes for you. Like I said, to me, it's almost like they're the king of the Western RPG with all the
Absolutely.
studio, and you like to see that. We'll get into it later, to preserve those type of games, because you need
Mhm.
both. Everything can't be live service, bro. And I love my live service here and there, but I could only be married to one. And too many is it's
Exactly,
crazy.
man. And it's one thing I respect. I'm going to call out a random game. It's one
Mhm,
thing I respect about Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis.
mhm.
It is an MMO, but I beat it. There wasn't like this limitless mountain of content to just comb through, and it's like you're constantly stressed. I finished the story that was available, and COG, I laid it down, and I'm waiting for the next update, man. And it's
Yeah,
great. It's a good
great.
game, and
Yes,
that's it.
I
And
agree.
so maybe that's not the most business savvy. Of course, every company has their own different budgets and ways of handling how assets are developed. I understand that, um, but I just can't help but look at this and be a little concerned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Equally as concerning is the workplace conditions for Ubisoft. There have been multiple stories about the toxic workplace environment there, and now we're hearing again like, oh yeah, we're taking it seriously. We've looked into it. We've made the proper changes. They're saying they're taking these actions. They redid their entire internal review process they had said previously, and now they're saying that, oh well, it would have led to them being exonerated or disciplinary actions would have been taken, but yet these people are still in charge. So a very hairy situation there. How do you? Of course, I think that's obvious how you feel, but what do you make of where Ubisoft's at right now with that?
Yeah, this is a big, sore subject for them. They've been getting creamed by this, because, obviously we're hearing that people in lead roles are still, operating, and people want the key is accountability. They have to be very transparent with what's going on, how they're truly taking action.
Mm-hmm.
And if things are getting swept under the rug, I'm not assuming, I don't have all the details,
Yeah.
that's going to be a problem. The pressure is still going to be on. They had a lot of dirty laundry come out, and it's
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but one would just hope that they are truly taking proper action, and that this is not just lip service from PR to kind of brush things under the rug. But that's what I got on it. What you got on it, bro?
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that they're not being. I can appreciate the idea of not being overly reactionary and just like terminate them all. I totally get that.
Mhm.
I like the idea of doing the investigation,
Yes.
verifying everything. I think that's important. But when it's recurrent and it's a lot of people and they're all saying it internally and it's constant and it's continuous, that's not just something that's, hey, let's just do this. Something's happening, right? And it's why the hashtag went trending. It's why people have stopped buying their games. Obviously, not in mass to affect their bottom line, but people are starting to catch up to them. I was guilty of it for months and months and months. I used to very much be a fan of Ubisoft and how they handled things. Their creator relations are fantastic. They still
Mhm.
are,
Right.
because these situations are separate. But they're the way they interact with people, the way they provide review codes, their communication. Um, I can confidently say, as someone who's just worked with them on that level, it's very good
Yeah.
compared to other companies. So
Mhm.
I was always like, oh, they're fine. I think a lot of people fall into that mindset of like their worst flaw is the bloated game,
Right.
and then you start to hear this, and it's like, all right, like, and you start to learn that these bloated games and these design decisions stemmed from the poor leadership of these fucked up people inside,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
are making it horrible for everyone. And there were games that like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where Cassandra, very clearly the lead character in Assassin's Creed Odyssey,
Yes.
very clearly if you pick her, but they originally did not want to have her be the lead character, and just because she's a woman, and they were
Right.
like, okay, let's put Alexios in there, and Alexios, like, no offense to him, just
Right.
not as good, didn't fit as
That's
well,
what I hear.
felt
Yep.
very slapped on. And so I look at it and think to myself, like it's gotten to a point where it's not only affecting people's workplace environment, but it's affecting creatively the games, and it's led to widespread complaints for Ubisoft on their product too. So I don't know why they're not hasty to take action, because I mean, money talks, right?
Yeah.
So I can immediately argue with myself and go, that's why.
Mhm.
But I feel like there's stuff that could be addressed with this both internally, externally.
Yeah, I mean, it to me again, without knowing all the details, I'm just going
Right.
from looking from the outside in. But it when you have repetitive actions like that, then to me it denotes culture. There has to be a culture change, and maybe the powers that be that are in place are still festering that. Maybe that is still festering. Maybe that's why this stuff becomes reoccurring, because it's one thing to have a singular incident with a singular person, but when it keeps reoccurring, then you got to worry about, okay, what's the culture inside the building that's allowing this kind of thing to keep happening.
That's the thing. If it keeps happening, you got to overhaul it from top to bottom. Like it starts with Evie's Gilmont and it goes down. Like it's got to, if the culture continues up. Yeah, you just can't be running that type of company. It's just that simple.
Agreed.
So we'll see as we learn more details. But for now, let's get into some Xbox stuff with number 3. Hot on the heels of our previous episode of Defining Duke was an interview that drops from IGN involving Phil Spencer. A lot of questions were asked, but one of the most noteworthy quotes is where Phil stands on 343's seemingly make or break moment as a developer with Halo Infinite. Quote, Halo will be here 10 years from now. Is Infinite the linchpin on whether it survives that long? Absolutely not. The game has such a rabid fan base and such a rich history and lore that it's just an IP that's going to be with us. We don't take that for granted, but I definitely believe in my core if that is true. I think there are going to be millions of people that are going to play that game and love that game. I'm sure there will be some people that will see opportunities for us to do more, and that's just the nature of being in the entertainment business, and we accept it. That's just the kind of thing that we have signed up for, and we love being a part of that. I think game teams, whether it's our teams or any team out there, they put enough pressure on themselves in delivering for customers. And when you're on a franchise that's as big as Halo, with such focus on every step and every word that's said, I trust the team, I trust the progress they're making, and I have confidence in Halo Infinite. And I just think that's all that needs to be said there. I don't think it's make or break. I just don't believe that. End quote. So we're going to get into some more. But yeah, I apologize to the audience who, we literally record on Wednesdays. So sometimes we're a little behind on stuff that happens that same week. It's just one of the unfortunate things that occurs with how we balance Sacred Symbols, Defining Duke, recording times, getting the thread in for patron questions. So if this sounds old, it's because it's a little bit old. Another noteworthy quote coming from Phil Spencer is his stance on acquisitions. Quote, it doesn't mean that every team has to end up selling their studio, but I think it is a natural and healthy part of an industry that certain teams will start a studio. Many of them will fail. We know most small businesses fail, whether it's video games or anything else, but those that make it through, and at such a kind of risk-filled journey for them to get to the point to create real value, I'm always going to congratulate when teams get to the point where they realize that value through acquisition or just massive independent success, if that's the path they also start to on, end quote. Phil also noted the weaknesses of Xbox's portfolio in that conversation, which was a global presence as well as more family games. So, chock full of Phil comments here, starting with Halo, ending with acquisitions. Where do you want to begin, Cog?
Yeah, let me start with Halo, man. I actually agree with Phil completely on this. And I understand the sentiment from the Xbox community, because I feel if this was a situation prior to all the studio acquisitions, right? Then I would say, yo, Infinite got to hit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, if Infinite don't hit, it's going to be a problem. And don't get me wrong, there's still pressure in the sense of we all want a great Halo Infinite game. But this whole make it or break it part, I'm with him on that, because it's like, at the end of the day, it's going to be around. You know what I'm saying? It's going to, look, if it don't hit, then I've always said this. I've been a firm believer that, there may be some structural changes at 343 coming off of 5 Guardian. Again, not that it was a terrible game, but from a campaign standpoint, it wasn't well received. You know what I'm saying? So now with this, we'll see. You know what I'm saying? So I'm with him on that part. As far as the the whole the portfolio part, I think that I think they're going to look into other situations where they get family friendly games. They need a diverse lineup if they're going to make Game Pass the driving force. You can't just have all RPGs, right? You just can't have all. I'm sorry, man. I know that's what you want.
I'll live.
But you can't have all of what genres. So you got to have the family games. We talked about the fighting games, right? We talk about, JRPGs, right? You got to have this diverse lineup that hits all these different regions that's going to appeal, the racing and all this other stuff. So I'm with him there. And the last point, and I'll finish up. I love what he said about the studio acquisition part too, in reference to stability, because me and you've talked about this, Manny, right?
Mhm.
You know, when people look at being acquired, some gamers look at it as a negative. And I'm like, oh, you know, they're just buying up country company, you know, studios, bro, and they're
Mhm.
not and it's like it's such a risk-filled position and thing that it's like, yo, like to get someone to fund your game, to get it across the finish line and to have that stability where you're not looking over, you got to pay the rent, it's
Mhm.
real, man. So it's like, I like those stories where we hear a project come over the finish line
Yeah.
because someone helped out, whether it be Sony, Microsoft, whoever, right?
Yep.
You want your favorite studios and games to exist. And if they can't complete it or get it done, what's the other alternative? They go away, they die. Because so they can say that they did it on their own, they nurtured it by
Mhm.
themselves. Like, cut your ego out. If someone's willing to help you and they believe in your project, I'm doing the deal.
Yeah.
That's just me. But what you think, Matty?
I'm the same way, of course. Yeah, if I build a team and there's value that can be put on it, and you don't got to look over your shoulder as often, yeah, you take that 10 out of 10 times. And I think anyone who doesn't, I mean, yeah, it's great if you can remain independent, but like you said, yeah, I do believe there's a stripping of the ego, and I understand like the desire to keep these more independent giants like a Square Enix independent. That makes more sense. But I'm talking about a yacht club games, like who's making Shovel Knight and they're publishing Cyber Shadow. Like, yeah, those companies, like, you know, if they're being offered money to join Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, it's like, you know what? Yeah, like you should take that, right? Like you don't need to worry too much now. For Halo, it's interesting because he talked about Halo and he of course mentions the team, but he more so talks about the IP. Like Halo's going to be with us. But then he also mentions how, you know, this, you know, he doesn't want to put pressure on the team. And I do wonder if Infinite isn't very good and it isn't well received and doesn't have those legs. What does happen with 343? Now, a lot of people go doomsday level and say, shut them
Yeah.
down. No, it's
Yeah.
never going to happen. Never.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw them shift a little bit with the Killer Instinct. It's really the only example we have where I just don't want to take that off the table. I think after 4 being it's well received, but it dies fast, and 5 being a game that the campaign was so poor to people that it really damaged the property as a whole. It really did, right? The complaints did not source from, we talked about this with Chris on an episode of Defining Duke Ultimate. A lot of the complaints for 5 were really not about the multiplayer. Yeah, sprinting was a little upsetting for people, but it really came from the campaign. Like, it matters that much to people. So with Infinite having this 10-year-long plan, and they're saying, oh, yeah, like the campaign's going to evolve, which we talked about.
There's that word
Yeah.
again, Maddie.
They're like, it's going to evolve. I'm like, all right, if it doesn't have a finish, kind of like Halo 5 didn't have a finish, I don't know how people are going to be like, yeah, 343 is the team. I don't know how Xbox could continue to justify. And that's not me saying I don't trust 343, because everything I've seen about Halo Infinite, you know, withstanding the August showcase on a graphical level.
Yes.
But gameplay wise, multiplayer, what we're hearing, everything sounds great to me. It really does. So I feel like this is going to be the one that they do hit, but we need to talk about the realistic possibility of if they don't. And so I'm glad that Phil's got this back. He's not putting more pressure on the team, but I also think it's a question where he can kind of non-answer it, because he's not going to sit there and go, Cog, they fuck up. We're gonna have a talk. We're gonna have a talk with 343, and we might get rid of them. Like, he's not going to say that. And so,
Facts.
And so, you know, of course, that I don't want to devalue his answer here, which was much more open than I think people anticipated. But I do think people are kidding themselves if Infinite comes out and it's busted, if they don't sit down and have a talk and go, okay, we brought in Joe Staten, we've done everything, we gave you the money, we gave you an extra year, and we still have something that's not really great. What happened?
Absolutely right. I mean, the tea leaves are there. The fact that Staten was already, I always butchers. Is it Staten or Staten? I always butcher it.
I thought it was Staten as well. But
yeah, sorry. Staten, the legend, Bungie. So when Staten is brought in, you can't tell me that there is, at this late in the stage, that there is some type of concern on a level that something needed to be handled, addressed, shifted on a managerial level. So to me, again, if they drop the ball with Infinite, then yeah, something may have to happen. Maybe he gets full right. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But I agree. I'm with you on that part. We're fooling ourselves if we think that absolutely nothing is going to happen if this game flops. Yeah. But I think the Halo overall franchise as a whole will be okay. They'll just probably shift direction or whatever they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. As for their expanding of the portfolio, I think this is pretty two wise areas to touch on for him. Global makes more sense on a Japan level, and if we're to believe rumors, like we talked about in Defining Duke Ultimate, we've heard names like Crytek, but most notably like something such as Avalanche, which is a Swedish studio. Could be talking global in the terms of like Europe. But family games, you look at PlayStation, they had Sackboy, they had Knack, Astrobot. They have these great games that come out for a younger audience, Ratchet and Clank, that are also accessible to a older audience. And look, I say this with all due respect. I don't know if Psychonauts 2 is going to be that game. Like it doesn't. Right. I could be wrong. I could be entirely wrong. But they are lacking that family side of games. All I'm saying is they got to remake Toy Story 3 and they'll be fine. That's what they got to do.
That's what Maddie wants.
Have you ever played that?
I've not. Dude, I have not. Good?
I'm telling you. I'm telling the audience. It is the best movie tie-in game of all time.
Ooh, oh, that's lofty. Okay, now I gotta check it out.
It has a sandbox mode that is fucking wild. You just walk around this like open world Toy Story game, and you collect like toy parts and you build your own city, dude. It is nuts.
Fire.
Yeah, so they got to remake that. That's their key to more family games. All right, number 4, another report. The deal between Metal Gear Solid creator Hideo Kojima and Microsoft has reached a new milestone. It is in the form of a signed letter of intent, and word comes by way of VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb. This letter of intent states that the two parties intend to work together or intend to work out the details on a publishing agreement for a new Xbox game, according to sources familiar with the matter. This arrives after months of rumors that the two unlikely parties would be teaming up, and likely this means that we, the consumers, will see something from this partnership at some point in time. Not much is known about the game other than it makes use of cloud computing to reach its goal, as opposed to a specific game pitch like many other developers go through. Badly Brave writes in, "Hey, Maddie and Cog, hope all is well. With Kojima and Microsoft allegedly signing a letter of intent and moving forward with the deal, I have 2 simple questions. First, what kind of game do you hope it is? Stealth, horror, strange genre? Second, do you have any thoughts on what it's likely to be? Kojima is hard to predict, so I understand if you skip over that part. Hope you guys have a great week, and props to Maddie as always and Cog for kicking ass already." All right, I'll hop into this because I know, Cog, you're having a little bit of construction work going on, so you're going to keep on and off muting just so the audience knows I'm not just talking a mile a minute, so Cog can't. For me personally, I want to see him go back to stealth. I feel like we saw a little bit of that with the Death Stranding director's cut, and immediately my interest went up a level. Like Death Stranding doesn't look like the worst game. It doesn't look like my type of game. So you as people know, you just carry these packages to and fro. But there were a couple of gameplay moments sprinkled throughout. I probably would have been more on board with this game and more interested in it. So I do want to see him tackle that. And one thing we do know about this game that Kojima said is he doesn't want. I think, Cog, you wisely corrected me. Is I'm like, does he want to make a more uplifting game, or does he just not want to try to predict the future with this game like he has so accurately on multiple occasions? And so, on what it's likely to be, I'm thinking maybe it'll be something more. I would go to the length of saying fantastical, not like alternate history, but something more like this cannot happen in the real world, and if it does, oh no, some like other planet or some fantasy setting. I'll go to that length just because I truly believe he probably wants to just pull out of if he dedicated a whole section to Jeff Keighley's show saying like, oh, I don't want to make I think he compared it to 9/11 and stuff. So looking at that, I mean, as a New Yorker, it's a pretty huge comparison to make, and so I think he's going to try to make something separate from what is occurring in the real world, and what that may be, I don't know. I feel like cloud computing, the first thing I think of is something like what Microsoft Flight Sim did with generating a world map, combining that with like the Strand genre and like accurate delivery to locations across the United States. In all seriousness, I do see him sort of melding those two to some extent and maybe incorporating more gameplay moments in between. What do you think?
Apologies, y'all. They're going crazy by me, but I want stealth. I'm gonna try to talk as loud as possible so you can see it. But I want stealth. I really do. I really want him to get back into that bag. I think the Death Stranding aspect I'm okay with. But at least from the cloud implementation part, right?
Mhm.
I want to see. I don't want a fully cloud-based game, but I do want to see them from a standpoint of maybe the interactivity between the world and maybe other players and what they do in their own single-player experiences. I think there's a lot to build there, but ultimately, I would like a fresh take on stealth with him behind it. And, of course, the Kojima-ism, the fantastical nature, that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's what, but don't predict the future, though. He's too good at that.
Yeah, I was going to say, enough's enough, right? Lay that to rest. But this will likely be an Xbox exclusive. It's an interesting partnership nonetheless. If they're just signing a letter of intent to work together now and they've made the hires, I'm sure this won't be something we see for probably 3 years, 4 years. So it'll be some time, but it's good to have the details on it occurring. And I'm sure we'll see something in due time, but still really interesting nonetheless. Just wanted to touch on that and provide an update. Number 5, new additions to Xbox Game Pass in July. Dragon Quest Builders 2 arrives on cloud July 8th. So you already have this when you're listening to this, patron or just free listeners. Same thing goes for Tropico 6, which is on cloud, console, and PC July 8th. There's also UFC 4, which is cloud, console, and PC on July 8th. Then we move to July 15th, where we have Bloodroots on cloud, console, and PC. Farming Simulator comes to cloud, console, and PC. And The Medium comes to cloud.
Your favorite.
Yep.
Favorite.
Those are the July 15th editions. Anything here sticking out to you that maybe you'd want to play?
I might try the UFC 4.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. I've heard good things about Tropico. I always tell people go play Dragon Quest Builders too. Just please. It's so good. It's so good, man. I put like 80 hours into it, man. It's so good.
I do need to try. I need to stop playing. I need to try it.
It literally takes Minecraft and I don't want to say it RPGifies it because it just sounds like I literally like anything that has role playing in it. I swear it goes beyond that though, because here's what I mean. Right, you got the Minecraft collecting resources, but imagine if Minecraft gave you blueprints and there was like some action combat in there, and like all these rooms that you build through the blueprints have purpose, and like your villagers will go in there and do certain things. It's cool, man. It's cool. I love it.
I feel you.
I love it. So check it out. Number 6, EA Play will soon be upon us in just a few short weeks on July 22nd. And while rumors have swirled about the return of Dead Space, many quietly anticipated Bioware to have a strong presence given how deep the team is in Dragon Age 4 and upcoming releases like the next Mass Effect, as well as a possible multiplayer update for Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Recently, Bioware took to Twitter to inform fans that they will not be at the publisher's showcase as they are hard at work on their respective titles. While disappointing, Bioware also announced the next expansion to their long-running MMORPG, Star Wars The Old Republic, which is still currently only available on PC. The new expansion is titled Legacy of the Sith, and it arrives this holiday, 2021, where players will revisit Manon. Shout out to all my KOTOR fans, best player in the game.
Ow!
The most exciting addition arrives in the form of combat styles, which allows players to select various class abilities while still being able to experience other class stories. So just to quickly explain that, and then I'll finish up my write-up here. What happens with Star Wars The Old Republic is pretty much you will pick a Jedi Knight or something like that, and you'll have to play the Jedi Knight class story. Now you can say, I'm going to play as a ranger with its class abilities or a soldier with its class abilities, but I can do the Jedi Knight storyline. So it sort of opens up the game a lot more. On top of that, the game will receive an increase in its level cap and character creations receiving a bit of a revamp. Arsh Hundal writes in, what's up, Dukes? With BioWare confirming that they won't be present at EA Play this month, when do you think we can expect to see some gameplay from Dragon Age 4? Dragon Age 4 kind of has a lot of pressure on it to redeem BioWare's name because the last couple of releases from the studio, as we know, have not been great. However, this is a game that has been in development for 6 years and not much has been shown since. The game seems to be in development trouble, and I have low expectations for it since the current lead is the same person responsible for Anthem 2.0, a game that never came out. Thanks, Arsh. Thank you for writing in, Arsh. BioWare, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, this one hits for me because I played Inquisition and I really enjoyed it. And for those without spoiling that played it, you get to the end. There's a major thing that happens reveal wise, and I'm dying to know what's the next thing. So, I'm very concerned about that. Like we haven't seen anything from it, and I'm just like, yo, what's going on? So, yeah, that's my take. I don't want it to be an Anthem 2 situation.
I agree entirely. And I'm not really going to fault the director of Anthem 2.0 because they were dealt a pretty shitty hand and just said like, hey, try to fix this thing that clearly no one's interested in anymore, and that Bioware is not known for, and it's going to have to do something insane to pull people back. So he was really fighting up a mountain with that one, and a major uphill battle. I don't really think that devalues what this person brings to the table. That said, when it comes to Dragon Age 4, it's funny because I just made a video in the last couple of weeks on this game talking about its development history and just how I was worried about the game. And when I started off, I said to people, you're clicking on this and you might be thinking like something happened for me to be worried. I said, truthfully, nothing has occurred. And so what I did was I dove back into the development history of this game that's been documented so far, where it started off as, I believe it was called Joplin. This was a single player role-playing game with heists, and it would allow you to be replaying the game over and over in a much more tighter Bioware design rather than what we saw with Inquisition, which really blew things up. This was more along the lines of, we're going to make a 30-hour game and make it highly replayable. That sounded, as a longtime Bioware fan, a lifelong Bioware fan, incredible. Like, that's exactly what we wanted. Then you go to later on in development, and they merged it into a live service game. So you were probably going to start to see stuff like Avengers from Square Enix, where you see the elements of a single player game that has been turned into live service. Then a report comes out at the beginning of this year, thanks to Jedi Fallen Order, EA has allowed Dragon Age 4 to become a single player game like it once was, free of live service and all that. Now that sounds great, but what's happened is this started off as one thing, turned into live service. A lot of Bioware staff working on it left that were major players in the Bioware franchise, like Mark Dara, worked on a ton of Dragon Age stuff. Gone. Then they go back and they're like, let's go ahead and make Dragon Age single player. So this game has had a to and fro development cycle.
Makes sense now. Now this makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So for me, it's like, yeah, they are deep in development. It has been 6 years. It's been longer than that. We got Inquisition in 2014. So it's been about,
that was close around the launch of Xbox One.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so this was a game that BioWare was, I've heard and it's been reported that they were kind of upset that this was a Game of the Year hit because its development process, its cycle was so tumultuous and so agonizing in the way that they were making RPGs for Frostbite that they kind of internally wanted the game to not do that well so then they could make it on Unreal. But then when it did well, EA was like, we'll make it on Frostbite.
That emboldened them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it reversed things on them. And that's why I'm worried about Dragon Age 4. It's because I think BioWare internally gets it. Like, they understand the pressure. I don't think they're sweating over there. I think they get it. They needed a Mass Effect Legendary Edition type of win where it's like, let's go. This is just a great game from BioWare. Yeah, it's a remaster package, but there's so much tech errors that could have came with the big changes in Mass Effect 1. I'm happy that they got something right. They needed that. Like, they just need even a small victory. That small victory was a big victory for them. But with Dragon Age 4, I'm concerned because of those major gaps, because of the revisions to the game, and much like what occurred with Anthem. BioWare was given about 7 years in that area with Anthem. And despite all the time they had, EA was not really putting the pressure on them. They gave them their time, and the Anthem we got was made in less than 2 years.
Yep.
And so management problem, not in the way we talked about with Ubisoft, but management of content in BioWare is arguably its biggest problem. They just do not manage their projects well. And Andromeda it's impressive for the time period it was made in, but it was not the game that we deserved or should have got. And that was made in about 18 months. So it's insane, but once again, I feel like we're kind of edging into that territory where they've revised the game multiple times. And here we are again with BioWare likely going to have to make this in a short period of time. At least the writing on the wall is there. Sorry, I know I talked for a while there.
No. You're good. You're good because you're helping me out. But yeah, it's very, very concerning. It's very concerning with the development, especially when you have that shift where it goes from one complete concept to another complete concept. And, I am concerned about the long-term development of the game. And then obviously we see Casey, the legend, the greatest mullet in the game. Casey, you know what I'm saying? Like he now just ventured off, got his own studio. People are leaving. I've heard the DICE thing. I've heard the Unreal thing. I've heard the management thing with Anthem. Anthem was the thing that really disappointed me as a person who likes those type of games. I was really pulling for it. So to hear that, and now with Dragon's Age, you really put things in perspective for me, Maddie, because it really made me see like, yo, this was a completely different game than how it started. And it makes sense now. 6 years we haven't seen anything. And yeah, I'm concerned. I'm concerned for them, man. I hope they can pull this thing out, man. I'm pulling for Dragon's Age. I liked Inquisition a lot. So.
Yeah, Inquisition's good, right? Like I definitely dragged it more than I should have. But Inquisition's good. But you can tell internally, I always wonder if there was a way for BioWare to do what Bungie did. Just go off independently.
Yeah.
I would love to see what happens there. Because
to me,
I know, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, I think EA gets scapegoated a lot with them. And EA does a lot of wrong, and they have interfered with BioWare in a number of ways, really towards Mass Effect 3 and Dragon Age 2. Like, that's where EA really kind of mucked up the waters and got their hands in there. But otherwise, I don't know what to say. EA's been patient and giving them the money and letting them reboot the project and let them do what they had to do.
Bro, that Anthem story showed me a lot. I used to scapegoat EA for a lot.
How couldn't you? Yeah.
Bro, like when I read about the meetings and, again, I shout out to Jason Schreier. We had him on and, and I learned a lot. And I'm just like, wow, there was a lot. I mean, at one point, I think flying wasn't in the game. And you know what I'm saying? Like very close. So it just goes to show you, like, everything is, it's a combination of things. It's a combination of things, right? And to your point, the people that you love that make these beloved franchises, right? Some of them have moved on. So the core BioWare might not even be there. And then my last point is I always felt, I know I'm not a techie in the sense of tech engine, but to me, when I play Mass Effect Legendary, right? And I look at that Unreal Engine kind of still holds up, bro.
Yeah, like, dude, that's Unreal Engine 3. It does.
No disrespect to Frostbite. It's just me. You know what I'm saying? I feel that engine, they should have never, like, if that was what they liked and what they were used to, right? And now to your point, you're saying that Inquisition, they were not happy because they were fighting with the engine a lot and maybe something they were hoping that it kind of failed, I think that may have a play into a lot of the frustrations and stuff like that if those core BioWare guys were still there and they're still having those issues. But it's a very concerning situation. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a perfectionist BioWare just doesn't work. I don't know how else to say it. Their games are great because they were highly replayable, but they weren't rough around the edges in the way that you describe maybe a Greedfall. No offense to that game, I love Greedfall, but yeah, it's like you can feel the jank is the word that would be used for it. But with BioWare, there's a level of you're like Commander Shepard's head twisting mid conversation, and you're like, well, that's weird. But beyond that, like it almost adds to the game. And when you start to make it in Frostbite, it's this beautiful engine. The environments look incredible. It's making BioWare games what they're not, and it gets to the point where for those who haven't played Trespassers DLC, there will be like little floating glowing orbs, or not even orbs, like they're just these glowing lights that make no sense in the context of the universe or anything that's occurring in this world. And you'll walk up to them and it'll say like, listen to Sarah, and you'll click X and your characters will start talking. And I'm like, this engine is so busted for RPG development that they're putting floating glowing orbs to trigger conversations between your party members.
Wow.
And I'm like, that speaks to me volumes. It says so much about the difficulty of the engine that they're working on. So if BioWare comes out, and I don't even think it's possible, but if they came out and said, we're making this on Unreal Engine, I think 70% of my concern would go away. I'd be like, all right, they're good. They're good. They'll get something done here.
I'm with it.
But despite that, let's talk about the Old Republic expansion. So this is something that I've played on and off for years. I like Old Republic a lot. Good storytelling MMORPG. Of course, Old Republic's my favorite era of Star Wars. I got to ask first and foremost, have you ever dipped your toes into this one, Cog?
I have not, embarrassingly.
Embarrassingly, you say? Really?
Yeah, so many people tell me about it. And it's just like, I've got weird gaps in my gaming history, and these are like one of those. And it kind of pains me that I haven't gotten back into these kind of things. But you got to educate me, man.
Yeah, so I was ignorant at first, right? I was one of the people who's like, I'm a Knights of the Old Republic purist. Like, only play the Xbox games. Like, do not dare, not dare go near the online component. And then I had a couple write-ins. This is why I love the Bioware community, because they're so understanding with me. Like, I sit out there and I spew this bullshit, and they're like, "Look, Matt, like I did it with." I
put you to the side.
Yeah, I did it with Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm like, this game sucks. And then, like, I remember one of my buddies, Jackdaw, great YouTuber, does Dragon Age content, pulls me aside in the comments. He's like, Matt, look, man. It's like, I think you're harsh on Inquisition. I'm pleading with you. Give it another try. I'm like, okay, let's make some interesting content at least. If all fails. I play it and I go, you know what? There's a lot here I like.
Yeah.
I don't like its bloat. I don't like its side content at all. But I was like, there's a lot I like here. Same thing happened with the Old Republic. Like, Maddie, maybe online, but the stories here are good. And there's some cool endings, some dark stuff you can do if you do dark side route. And I think it's a worthwhile romp. Try it, Matt. Try it again. I go back, like, you know what? I gotta drop the act. Like, this isn't that bad.
Okay.
So the fact that they're still supporting this thing a decade later, awesome to see. I just want it to come to consoles. All I want.
Yes, that needs to happen.
I mean, they clearly still have interest in it if they're doing an expansion, not just DLC. They've done updates, but an expansion, Cog. I mean, I hope they can find a way. This is one of those, I call them hot bar MMOs. And by that, I mean, like, you got a bar on the bottom, the right side of your screen, left side.
Okay,
like,
one of those.
All those abilities, man.
Do you think it's a conversion issue? Maybe because of that?
It's got to be, because I feel they would have done it right now, or by now. Yeah, I just think that makes too much sense. But hopefully we see it.
Hopefully we get it.
Cog, you added a bonus topic here before we began, and so let's read that one off. Video games analyst Zuge seems to allude to some major cool announcements from each of the big three this week. The first domino to fall was Nintendo with the OLED Switch version. The second was Sony announcing the state of play this week. Now we wait to see if/what Xbox has in store, as Zuge has now officially confirmed the first two parts of his trifecta. What do we think it could be? Let's check now to see if anything has transpired while recording.
I've been refreshing. I haven't seen anything.
Nothing.
Yesterday was the Xbox All Access theme song, but I don't think that's it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Dude, we're being set up for failure again. It's going to happen tomorrow at this point, right? We were thinking like it's got to happen today. We were believing in that, but now it's like, oh, of course it's going to happen on Thursday. Our show's going to be done. We're going to wait till next week to throw something in. So what do you think it could be? Of course we'll speculate a little bit. What do you think?
Open studio announcement, because that was the talk going into, the Microsoft Bethesda conference. So I want to know that, or maybe some type of games deal. I remember like during the week, when did we get MLB this year? I felt like we got that during the week, just random.
Yeah, that was a Monday. I think. And it just, we woke up to that. Or no, that was in the afternoon. That was just out of nowhere.
Yeah, like out of nowhere. So maybe some type of big game, maybe a big Game Pass edition, third-party edition announcement kind of thing, like in a vein of Outriders thing. I think there's a couple ways they could go. My pie in the sky is acquisition. My middle is probably Game Pass edition of a big title, or I anticipated kind of, hey, welcome to the family Game Pass, at the Game Pass Twitter account, start tweeting something. And then, I don't know. What you got, man? What are you thinking it could be?
Yeah, of course I'm with you. Acquisition is sort of the pie in the sky. Like, maybe, like, just who cares? What's the timing of it all? Now's a good time to do it. They got some indies coming out, but nothing on the level of like AAA. I don't know if it'll be big third-party Game Pass. Personally, the reason I say that is because I feel like that disrupts the marketing. Like, they probably want to collect as many pre-orders as possible, then maybe a month before, then go like, yeah, it's coming to Game Pass day one. Where some people go, I already put the money on it, so whatever.
No, that's fair.
And so fair. My thought personally, what could happen is maybe Game Pass to another platform.
Are you implying another platform such as
maybe the Switch?
Nintendo Switch?
Yeah.
What?
Maybe.
Oh, you try to break the internet now.
Maybe.
Now you trying to say something with that smooth little OLED that they just announced.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you could play these on the go now with Game Pass. Stream it to your
OLED and chill.
I would love
OLED
that.
Game Pass and chill. Let's go.
I would love that, man. So, hey, here's hoping. I think this would be interesting, though, for the audience to listen to, because watch, they're going to be like,
something completely different.
We brought 10 games to the cloud.
Yeah.
We'll be like, oh, fuck.
We'll be like, oh.
We were sitting here thinking we're going to add a new segment to our show over it.
Facts. I mean, we do probably, if we're going to be, I'm going to be conservative, we'll probably do for like some more FPS boost titles, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, something on a smaller scale where it's like, hey, we just added all these other games you asked about. Rise of the Road, Rise of the Road, Rise of the Road.
Dude, yeah, I have this speculation that we know that Dead Space remake is likely going to be announced at EA Play. It seems all but confirmed officially. My theory was like, maybe they'll do Dead Space FPS boost that week.
Oh,
maybe they do it
good.
ahead.
Yeah, get the marketing roll going out in prep. Yeah, I can see that.
Maybe. We'll see, but we'll have our answer, of course, after this show is over. So fret not. Yes. Maybe if it's like a studio announcement, we'll be back here in this chair.
Boom, Ultimate 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm going live. Let's do it.
But that's all we got for the news this week. So now we move on to Game Pass / Back Compat Pick of the Week. This time I'm doing it. This fits into both categories as well. We've sort of been on a roll 3 weeks in a row where it's Back Compat, but it's also Game Pass. So I'm working on a project for this series. You'll see a video in the coming weeks on it. That's Dead Space. I'm doing a life and death of Dead Space.
Nice.
And for those who want an example of what that project's like, just go look up my life and death video of Sly Cooper. But anyway, played through the whole Dead Space trilogy in the last week and a half, man. About 9-hour romp each time. Did Dead Space 3 in co-op, but I want to call out the OG.
Let's get it.
Dead Space 1. I'm not going to send you right into Dead Space 2 because while it's a phenomenal game and I think it is better than the first one, Dead Space 2 won't be as appreciated on a story level if you have not played the first one. But the first one,
I gotta go back to the first.
It's so pure, Cog. It's so pure. You know, it's just silent protagonist walking around this claustrophobic ship, the Ishimura. You have these necromorphs coming after you. It's the introduction of dismemberment, death by dismemberment. These tools that were used here on the ship are weapons of destruction now. The Ripper, you shoot out this telekinetic saw blade designed for mining is now hacking your enemies apart. There's a phenomenal connection between gameplay, story, and universe there. If you have not played Dead Space, do not be one of those people who comes into my show and says, I'm waiting for the EA Motive remake. As far as I am concerned.
I can't wait for the updates, though.
You can wait for the updates. We can wait and see if there's an update. I'll give everyone that. But if there's no FPS boost, get the frick in there. The reason I say that is because EA Motive is unproven, in my opinion. Even if we see a gameplay, and it looks pretty solid, which knowing EA, I'll be shocked if they're like, first time you're seeing this is going to have gameplay. I'd be stunned. I very much expect like a CGI or a
vertical slice, baby.
A skate like, hey, we're doing it. That's more so where my expectations are. But EA Motive did the Battlefront 2 campaign. Not crazy about that. They did the Star Wars Squadron campaign. Squadrons on a gameplay level, awesome. Campaign, very, very similar to Battlefront 2. And so with all due respect, not crazy about that either.
I feel you.
So for me, remake or not, they are not proven. And the original trilogy is intact and complete enough and good enough and playable enough. You can play this and enjoy it. Please. Especially because looking at Dead Space 1, the tech there is impressive still. The lighting, the sound design, it's still top notch, especially for its time, 2008. It is one of those rare games that you can play and it can pass as something much more modern.
That's good. That's big.
It really does feel like not a recent release, but it does not feel so beyond dated that it's unplayable. A comparison I make, it sounds off the wall, but I say it is because it came out in the same year as Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey I played for the first time late last year. And when I did, it was I thought this was like a 2012, 2013 game. It looked amazing. combat's good, story's fantastic, and the flow of the game is much more modernized. I'm thinking to myself, like, this gotta be a late 360 game, and I find out it's 2008. And dude, if you sold that to me now, I would have believed you that like this was a 2013, 2014 game in a number of ways.
Still holds up.
Still really holds up. Same thing with Dead Space here. Only thing that feels a little old is every mission ends with you going back to the tram and then you load in the next level and you go to a new part of the Ishimura. So it makes sense on a universe level, but it is the only part that feels old.
Right. I got you.
I played it on Series X, so it runs on the Xbox One X version of that. So there's some upscaling there, some auto HDR, but not really any FPS changes. It is in 30.
Oh wait, we had to see. That's when you lost me.
I know.
I was there with the. I just went to 60, man. Let me see what Motive do. Let me just see what Motive.
I know, right? It's a game
that
you
had me into the third.
I mean, that's the thing is, I'm like immune to this stuff. I'm a big 60 FPS guy, but I played 1 and 2 in 30 on Series X. And then I went to PC to play with my buddy for co-op with 3. And that was fine. I was like, all right.
I give you credit.
I don't get the headaches that people get. I don't freak out over it. I see the things, but I don't react to them. So I'm a little more understanding than your average gamer. But Dead Space is my Game Pass pick of the week. It's there. You can download it, PC, console, what have you. Nothing on cloud. I tried to stream it. One of the sad moments, though, I'll throw this out there. I think this is with all 360 games. So I had this moment of like, Dead Space in bed sounds great, Cog. How can I get this working? So I set up the remote play. I start messing with the app. I get it all rocking and rolling. I click on the app and they're like, you can't stream your 360 game to this. And I'm like, damn. So Xbox One and Series X and S games, fine. But 360 games, you cannot stream to your iPad via remote play.
So 360 back compat, you can't do it?
No.
I didn't even realize that.
Hey, if that's the news that Zuge was talking about,
that's it. Yeah. That's the third shooter.
Yeah, that's the third piece of the trifecta.
Woo!
360 remote play streaming. I'm about it.
Let's hook Matty up, man. He needs this. He needs this.
I do. I need my horror games in bed. Everything in bed is better.
Facts.
Yeah, if you take it a number of ways, but it was more.
He ain't lying.
All right, Cog. We got 5 final questions to wrap up the show. Let's get it started with Philip Boyle. How are you, lads? Greetings from Ireland. It's been pretty slow on the uptake with the whole cloud, or I've been pretty slow on the uptake with the whole cloud gaming thing. I wasn't sure if it truly was the future or not. However, I picked up a controller, the Razer Kishi, for my phone on Prime Day sales recently, and have been slowly adopting cloud gaming as part of my gaming habits, mostly at night while the TV is being used or while in bed. See, there we go. We got another gamer in bed.
Another gamer in bed. I see the vision.
There we go.
I see the vision.
Woo. I've played through Gears Tactics, Cog.
Fire. Love this guy, Ray. Salute Philip Boyle.
There we go. Donut County. And have been recently achievement hunting in Peggle 2.
Peggle.
That's a good game.
Yeah, it's fun.
I had a moment this week where I decided to continue playing Peggle 2 on my Series X after playing through the cloud and realized that I didn't have it installed. I honestly forgot for a moment about having it to install games, and the inconvenience of waiting for the game download made me grimace, he says. Well, the life of the privileged streamer here.
Oh, no.
This was the moment I said to myself, yep, cloud is the future, and picked up my phone to continue playing there instead. My question is, do you lads agree cloud is the future, or at least part of it? And if so, have you any of your own epiphany moments like I had?
It's a good one. It's a good one. I think, it is the future. I think it's the future. It's the optional futures. People got to stop scaring themselves away from cloud. They're just like, everything's going to be, and it's not going to play physical, and I can't. And I get it. But at the end of the day, it's a situation where this is going to be a good option for certain people. And as the technology continues to improve and gets better, you're going to see more situations like Philip where people are like, yo, this is actually not that bad. You know what I'm saying? This is actually viable. And I think what it is the past, it's been such a negative stigma towards streaming that people just can't get their head around it and, just like automatically, eliminated from the conversation. But
Right.
until you try it, and like you said, Matt, you've been doing, like I said, you've been doing it, got that going on in bed. I've been trying it. I've got the key sheet that Philip has. I love it. It literally transforms my phone into a switch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And again, that's one option. I know you are a person that you like your phone, you want this your communication device, so the phone thing ain't for you. But let's just say, you're somewhere, you don't have your console with you, you're just on a browser. You're like, hey, let me log in. Boom, I can rock out. So I think it is the future. I think it is something that is going to continue to improve, especially with network infrastructure, especially with 5G. And it's up to Microsoft. I'm going to be on Microsoft for this. It's up to them to market, to let people know it's available. I want to see logos plastered with, when you get your smart TV, that they better pay for the marketing space. The Xbox, the Game Pass app better be there, the streaming app. Like, they've got to tell people. So many people don't know. When I go into a doctor's appointment, right, or the barbershop, which I was at, I'm waiting. Your boy had the Kishi out.
Oh, you were playing at the barber today?
Oh, yeah. I was at the barbershop chilling. He had like, what? I was like, I got my mask on. I'm chilling. I got my Kishi. I'm lit. So people looking at me, they like, yo, that's Xbox? And I'm like, they thinking it, what am I doing? They think it's like a mobile game. I'm like, nah. It was like, yo, that's crazy. You play Yakuza like a...
I love that, man.
Bro, I do it all the time at the dealership. I'm like, yo, how many hours for my car needs to repair? It's 2. Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm that guy.
Please. Yeah.
No problem. Bust out the keys. I'm chilling. I am the poster child for this joint. Like, people are amazed when they see it. And you know what it is? They're amazed at the fidelity. There's no disrespect to Switch. Switch is what Switch is. You know what I'm saying? But when you
can't put that Switch in your pocket, man.
Exactly. When you see like a Halo and these big graphical fidelity games, and they like, yo, and then the beauty of it, like Philip said, you log in, it takes a second, syncing your information to the cloud, right? And then as far as when you launch the actual game, to get your save data to take place right where you left off. I literally, when I went on my trip to Washington, I beat Peril of the Gorgon DLC on my Kishi. I played Outer Worlds on my Kishi because I didn't have my console with me. And I loved it, bro. Like, it's really cool. Again, it's not going to be for everyone. Everyone's situation is different. Everybody's networking bandwidths. I get it. But for a lot of people, when they try it, they're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just that ease of access, and because it's not a long startup time, you can post up in the barbershop like you did, and you can fire up a game, man, and kill some time. I'm one of those people who, like, I embrace the game download because I go and do something else, right? So you could, if your internet can hold up, you could start the download on your console and then begin your playthrough by streaming it on your phone or your tablet and just rocking over there. And it's like, oh, download's done, then just boom, move it right over to the console. But beyond that, man, yeah, I think cloud is the future. I think Microsoft makes cloud exciting, where if you're like, I'm a game collector, right? Like, I love my retro games. I love my physical copies. Like, I just got a copy of Judgment for PS5. Like, I'm still getting these modern games physically. I don't think that's going to go away, but Xbox makes it exciting where you can, like, as long as they keep that around, right? Like, you got people like me, traditionalists, who want to go out, get the game. Like, to me, there's an event with that. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
There's a moment there. Like, I've got the thing. Like, I don't like everything being digitized because it sounds weird, but like, I want to be able to reach out and like grab it and just be like, I have the game. It's mine. It's mine. And I know certain games can't do that, but that's why, like, I'm a big supporter of limited run games. Like, I love what they do. Love what they do.
Yeah, I love limited run.
And they take these indie games, like they take Aspire, who does ports, and they're like, let's give these people physical games, releases of these games that aren't able to have the financial ability to produce cases and manuals, and we're going to give them little collectibles. We're going to do collector's editions. So as long as that type of stuff can hang around, to me, Xbox makes cloud exciting because it is that, like, I said all the time, this thing right here, this iPad, this is my baby, man. This is the money maker. It's for my podcast, my work, everything, man. And if I can just grab this thing and have a controller and fire up a game when I want here at the studio, or if I can have the Razer Kishi and go out and get a haircut, just have that ready to fire up, man. That's gonna be that's the moment, right? Like,
there you go.
Just being able to continue your save and not having gaming being obstructed. I think it's going to bring people to games in a way that we're not considering, which is, for a lot of people, it's time. It's time. It's like, I'm not going to buy this 20-hour game even because I got this work trip in a week. But what if you could buy the game and start it on your work trip in that downtime in the hotel? Suddenly you just put 4 hours into it. Then you go home another 4 hours. Now you're like almost halfway through. That's it, man. It's that easy. So that's the difference maker, right? That's the difference maker is ease of access and time being respected. Something that not enough companies value.
Yeah, I agree.
So well said, Cog. You really set us up well. Leo's our next write-in. Hello, Maddie and Cog. Loving the show. Couldn't get a PS5, but got a Series S, and I've been loving every second of it. Here's my question. What's your opinion on Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim? Could we possibly get a ranking? I know Maddie is a huge Bethesda fan and loves their RPGs, but what about Cog? Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Cog, I need to know your stance on Bethesda Game Studios and Elder Scrolls.
This is good.
Okay.
This is good. All right. So, disclaimer. I'm a Morrowind fraud because I had the OG Xbox. I saw the game. A friend of mine was really into it. I didn't know what it was about. I went to his crib to check it out, and I was intimidated. I was like, there's so much going on. He was like, bro, you could do this, you could do that. Like, he was explaining, he was having so much. It just seemed so deep and overly complex that I was a little intimidated. So your boy pulled back. I didn't do Morrowind, so I can't really comment on more. But Oblivion was my first. And I fell in love, bro. The Oblivion gates, what is it, Molag Ball and the thing, and, you know what I'm saying? Like the Daedric stuff. And I was like, yo, this game. And then I was just amazed by the systems. Like, you steal and the cops run up on you. I'm like, bro, like, what's up? Like, he knew I had the hot goods. I'm like, damn, how'd you know? Paid his fee, I'm like, all right. So it was I thought I was just amazed by that. I thought it was like the police and the justice system, you know, and just all these things you could do in this world. Oblivion was my entry, and I love it. But I have to admit, when you heard that, bro, when you heard that joint, I was like, what's happening? This is amazing. And dragons, Skyrim is the GOAT. Like, it's not even close. Like, yeah, bro, like I could literally sit in the title screen and just smile. Like, it's that impactful. I had classic moments. I forgot the name of the character. There was one character, there was a chick that I guess I was in an area I shouldn't have been, and I was way too underleveled. And she kept handling me. You probably know this character. I wish I know the names, but it's a part earlier in the game, and I was in a place in the map I'm not supposed to be, and she was levels above. I remember when I finally killed her, I was like, all the pain you put me through. You know what I'm saying? It was a very powerful character early in the game. I just can't remember off the top, but just the spells and man, it was, that was such a beautiful game. The locales, the vistas, traveling anywhere, scaling mountains, and you know, the dwarves and the Delmer and all that stuff, man. Just Skyrim is the GOAT. And yeah, no disrespect to it, because Oblivion's great. But yeah, that's my three. I wish I could say more about Morrowind. I just didn't play it, and I would love for them to do kind of like a remaster of that. That would kind of be cool for me, to kind of give it a chance. But where you at, man? You are the GOAT of Bethesda. You are Lord Bethesda, Duke of Bethesda.
Yeah. For Morrowind Remaster, it's funny because they talk about it all the time, and they always say like, oh, we don't want to tamper with the original product. But I just say all the time that the only thing they really need to change with Morrowind that would be more user friendly is, and these would require more significant work, but it's not as heavy duty as I think people would imagine, is one, skill checking for every attack. So let's say your one hand is like 20 and this guy's right here in front of you, and you're like but you're whiffing even though you're like right there and your sword's going through them. And I remember as a kid my brain never connected with that. So them adjusting that to something like Skyrim or Oblivion where swing, connect, and skill check elsewhere, that's fine. But between that and just adding like a map so that you don't have to like check your journal every 5 seconds and go make a left on Grove Street and then go straight to Duke Avenue, and it's like, okay, like it just it can really drag you around, and you can get lost. So they've always talked about that, but they don't want to tamper the original experience. But I say go for it. For me, Morrowind. It's interesting because I respect the hell out of Morrowind just because of the story where Bethesda Game Studios was going to close down if this game wasn't a success.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, their back was against the wall, and they were like, they said, so they decided, let's go all in, let's make this game and make it as incredible as it is, and it saved the company. So there's something special about Morrowind, of course, and going in there and you look at Fallout 4 and then you play Morrowind and you're like, God damn, things are different now. Things are different. The voice protagonist, there's not as much choice and consequence. But Morrowind was so technically impressive for its time. I mean, it's a huge open world. We had a question somewhere about Morrowind and if it's playable now on the Xbox, and I just wanted to answer that in stride before I start ranking things.
Sure.
It's best on PC with mods, but you can get away playing the original stuff. You're just gonna have to accept the age of it.
Gotcha.
Much like COG, though, my first was technically Oblivion. I played Morrowind as a kid, but I also cowered away in fear. I was like, nope. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I don't know what's going on. So I get my 360. I got my 360 2 years late, and one of the first games I got for it was Oblivion. And I was hooked, mind blown, playing all the faction stories, Mage's Guild, Thieves Guild, Dark Brotherhood, main story. Yeah, just so much there. You finish it all. You look at your map. You see just how much more you have yet to explore. You're going through the Iliad ruins and the caves that are there. And then you find out years later, for me, as I got more invested in gaming, that one person built all the dungeons in Oblivion. And that is insane, man. There are so many. And of course, they're all reusing the same assets, but there's different stories in there. Oblivion soundtrack is so hard to match for me. I mean, all of these games have phenomenal soundtracks. I'm one of those people, though, like, you know, one week you'll ask me, and I'll say, yeah, it's Oblivion. Another week I'll be like, yeah, it's Skyrim. I think genuinely, consistently, I'm probably Skyrim as my favorite.
Woo! Okay. Talk to him. Tell him why.
On a personal level, I failed a class for this game.
Let's go. That's when you know it's real. You're supposed to go to school.
Yeah.
Are you still playing?
I don't say it with pride, but I was so excited for this game. I mean, it was really the launch pad for my channel. I mean, if you go look, the first videos that boomed for my channel, all Skyrim, because I was doing rare weapon and armor guides. I was doing walkthroughs. I was knee deep up to my ears at some points in Skyrim. I remember the reason I failed this class was because I was sitting there, and while we were obviously in a computer room, and we were supposed to be doing graphic design, and I would just pop up the browser and read Skyrim previews again and again. I was like, dude, I was a menace, man. That was not right. I love it. But I was really excited for this game, and it was everything I hoped it could be. And I'll always remember that moment. I'll always remember like thinking, oh my God, this is actually as great as I want it to be. And that endless feeling, not in a bad way, but that endless feeling. And then that pedigree is solidified with every time you go back into Skyrim. There's an energy. There's a feeling. It's not even nostalgia. There's an energy of just that truly go where you want. Yes. I think Bethesda realized that vision there. Like, I feel like I can go anywhere. You know, you exit the tutorial area and then you walk out of that cave and you're like, I can go anywhere and do anything. And that is fucking awesome.
It's great.
And so
feeling of exploration.
Yeah. Skyrim for me just takes the top. It's not the best role-playing game from Bethesda. I think Oblivion's that perfect hybrid. You know, you use skills, you get perks for them. Like if you jump around and run around a lot, your athleticism goes up, and it's like
I did like that.
for that. I love that. If Skyrim had that, mods aside, I would be, oh my God, it'd be untouchable. But that's where Oblivion takes number 2, and then 3 Morrowind. It just not that Morrowind's bad. Morrowind's excellent. Just Morrowind, I click with the least. There's a it feels too old. And I don't mind games built in a old school manner. Like I think of Divinity Original Sin 2 is like a great RPG built in an old school manner. But like Morrowind's, you'll click on a dialogue option and there'll be a wall of text. Like there's just stuff that demands really a quality of life enhancement for ease of play. That even someone as me, a Bethesda geek, love Elder Scrolls. I know the lore to some extent. Like I'm invested. Even I have some at times trouble with Morrowind on a level of spending hours, and I've never really completed it. When I think about it, I've gone in there time and time out, spent dozens and dozens of hours just exploring its world, doing quests. But it's not really, all Elder Scrolls games really aren't about beating them. Really just about the adventure, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt.
Lins 27 is our next write-in. Hey, Duke boys, hope all is well. Xbox has had somewhat undeserved reputation of shuttering studios and being a place where studios go to die. but do they now deserve credit for saving studios? So this was in reference to, I believe, like Platinum with Scalebound and all that stuff.
Yes, yes.
Studio auditions such as, or studio editions, sorry, this seems to be an autocorrect, such as Obsidian, Ninja Theory, Double Fine, and Compulsion have seemingly helped studios that have previously had financial issues and now allow them full creative visions with financial safety. Does Xbox deserve more credit for this?
Yes, yes, and yes. That has been my theme. I love the, like I said, I've had the chance to interview a lot of these studios in person, and that's one of the things, because the fear always was, oh, if Microsoft acquire you, they're gonna have they'll be in the boardroom, they're gonna be telling you how to make the game, and the studio quality is gonna die, and you hear all that stuff, and I ain't gonna lie, there was part of me that kind of fell victim, nervousness when you hear about all the acquisitions. I remember, speaking to Ninja Theory, speaking to all these studios just in person. Once I believe it was the E3 2018. It's one of my favorite E3s, and the reason being because it showed hope for the future. And a lot of these studios were on the cusp. When I spoke to Compulsion, they have one of the most unique stories. They were almost out of business like 2 separate times.
Really? I didn't know that.
Like really dire situations, and they were given second leases on life, which is unheard of, right? Saying, Ninja Theory, you hear about, them as a smaller punching above their weight. Obsidian, we've had on, and they talking about, look, without this type of funding, we wouldn't be able to produce this kind of stuff. You hear about NXL with Wasteland and, them getting the funding for the voice and to put that kind of stuff in. So I agree, and we spoke earlier about Phil's comments about the risk proposition of making a studio in this day and age. It's a huge risk proposition. So I think they need to get more credit. I think that, I'm going to always champion this, provided they keep doing what they do, which is allow. The greatest analogy I got was from Ninja Theory. I forgot her name. Awesome woman. Head of, it's like a 2-part head. So it's the guy with a T and the guy, I think her name was.
I wouldn't know personally, but.
Yes, but whatever. Yeah. The female lead, it's 2 of them. I spoke to her and I said, what's it like? This was the acquisition. It just got announced. Ninja Theory. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Right. So I'm like, what's it like? And she's like, picture being like a beer distillery or something like that, right? And you could only produce a certain amount, right? And then now someone comes, like Budweiser comes and said, now you can create as much as you want with as many resources you want, and we're not going to get into the individual way, the way you craft your beer. I was just like, so I was like, they really hands off. They letting you be creative, and it was like, yeah. They was like, we had to do the deal. And you hear the stories over and over again. Compulsion, Ninja Theory, the list goes on. So Double Fine, we heard that kind of thing. So I love it, man. I love these great studios, being a chance to develop. And in your case with Bethesda, I really like it because I look at a situation like Fallout 76. And I'm not saying it's the worst game or anything like that, but we could be kind of honest and imply that that's kind of not their history to do live service, right? Yeah. So to me, I look at that as prior to the acquisition, them trying to do different things to survive to a market that may have passed them by. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? On single player. So my thing is, how can you not be happy for them? Like your studio, your devs that you love are making the games and being able to do it without having to worry. Like, how is anybody bad at that? And I get so frustrated. I shouldn't get caught up with a Twitter space. Sorry about this rant, but it's just, I get frustrated. We nurture, you got to nurture the studio. That's not how real life works. That a lot of studios, sometimes they get acquired. That's just how it is. It's very rare. You know what I'm saying? That these big 3 will develop on. So rant almost over. I love it. It's great. I think it's great for the industry, provided the publisher, the acquirer allows the creative control. And it seems in Xbox case, from every account, every studio, and I've been researching, brother.
Yeah, no, you do the interviews, man. This is all you.
Bro, Undead Labs, every single one, they all tell me the same thing. And I have relationships with these people offline. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing. There's no, by the way, they told me I got to put it. Nah, none of that. No shenanigans. So ran over. I think it's great.
No, excellent to hear. And I think just by watching the dominoes fall alone, that you can't help but assume safely that would be the case. Would all these companies leap into the arms of Microsoft in a plenty, whether it be console exclusive, indie deals, or of course studio acquisitions is what we're focusing on, if they were not providing something that these creatives want? And Colin, we just talked to him and he literally said, we're making games mostly for Xbox now. Like, we're going to still do PlayStation, Switch, all that stuff. But Colin even said, as a guy who's making his own games, that he's absolutely looking at Xbox now because it's much easier to do it for. I can say, as someone who's working on their own, that's where I'm looking, man, because like their system is just way more appealing to make stuff for. And maybe one day that pendulum swings the other way, or I hope it just stands in the middle and both are great to make stuff for. But yeah, man, that's just incredibly well said. That information, wisdom, and knowledge is just exactly why we have you here, man. So thank you for all of that. That was great. And I agree. They deserve more credit than they get.
Absolutely.
Cody Richter up next. Hey, Cog and Maddie, I wanted to give a prior discussion a different perspective. Why did I put this in? I don't know. I'm just playing, Cody. You guys expressed your lack of excitement that Bloober Team is working on a new Silent Hill project. I agree completely with your feelings. But what if working on an established IP gives this team the push they need to jump to the next level? We've seen studios in the past make this jump after working on a big name project. Maybe Bloober is in that position now. What do you guys think? Will Silent Hill be the boost they need, or are they doomed to remain as a mediocre horror studio? Love the addition of Cog and the Duke and the energy he brings to the show. I do too, Cody. All right.
I'm going to let you grab it because I heard you talking on other podcasts. Shout out to Miles. Great show. Yeah. And you killed it, brother. You killed it. This subject came up and you gave me the best laugh ever. Like, I was rolling. Like he was like, wait, I gotta quote him. He said the medium was aggressively mediocre. You almost passed out. I was like, I'm using it. So I hit you up. But I'm gonna give it to you, man. I know how strongly you feel. This is your people.
I hope that no one from Bloober listens to our show.
Shout out to Bloober. But Maddie feels very strong. So I'm gonna let you have this, sir, and then I'll jump in after.
I hope people will understand if someone from Bloober does end up listening to our show. I rib you as a joke, but I also just genuinely did not enjoy your game. So just to keep it transparent, but also know I do give you guys a little extra shit as a joke.
No doubt.
All right. So like you mentioned, I was on Xbox Chatterdays. We had a conversation with Miles of Windows Central Gaming. Great show, great time. And thank you, Miles, for having me on. And we talked about this subject, and Miles is a pretty big advocate of Bloober Team. So I was hit from a left hook from a new dimension, man. I heard someone defending Bloober Team,
riding for it.
And he made some great points. He talked about stuff like them teaming up with I believe the name is Akira Tamaoka, who is the composer for Silent Hill. He's doing all their games now and into the future. The medium was clearly inspired to some extent by Silent Hill. You can tell the team loves that series. So by default, when they are handed the keys to the castle here, I think just all of us can relate on some level that if you love something, I don't want to say they didn't try with the medium, because they did try. Even if I don't like it, they did try. Mm-hmm. But they're going to try harder. And they're going to go that extra length, and they're going to think on a different level because there's something established there. And there is something to look at that Cody mentioned, which is the building something up, your whole universe inside and out, versus being handed an IP already established with its own catalog and expectations and what's within a Silent Hill game. You don't have to make that and define that. It's already been defined, and you can put your own spice on it. So there is something there where I feel like Bloober is in an exciting position, and in one where they are a little more, they don't have to do some of the deep thinking that's required of building your own universe. I encourage those out there, a good writing exercise, build a universe from top to bottom. What food is, how does food distributed? How is power distributed? What's the government look like? Go top to bottom and build this whole universe, the year it's set in, how they got there, everything. It's a lot. It sounds easy, but it's a lot. Yeah, man, if you're not doing that and you're instead saying, well, we know what Silent Hill is. Yeah, there is something there that I think that an established IP can give them, not the push they need, but almost the ability to focus elsewhere. where their writing is writing within Silent Hill, not making what does the medium have to be to sort of be its own thing, but also Silent Hill. So yeah, man, I agree that there is potential here for sure. And shout out to Miles again for, letting me hear that. I still don't really, I'm not excited for it.
Yeah, that's real. You gotta be honest.
I'm damaged goods from the medium.
This boy is scarred.
But I just, I'll slowly ease back into this relationship and see if anything happens. If I'm safe, but if not, then out I go again. We'll see though. But I'll still play it. Cog, do you have any thoughts on this? And with teaming up with this IP?
I'm with you in the sense of I wasn't wowed by it. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't. I felt that the dual reality. I was a little disappointed with the dual reality thing. I thought that was going to be way more intricate than it intended to be, and it was. It was a lot of I hate the term, but walking simulator-ish stuff in it outside of a key moment. I thought you described it very well in your description. I actually agree with you on a lot of your points of why you were frustrated with it. If it had more of those moments, and I'm not going to spoil if anyone played it, there's some hiding, tense moments and stuff like that I thought would have really done well. But I'm with you. I think the hope that I have is that they're building, right? They're building towards something. They had a project, they had another project that, you know what I'm saying? And I will say this. It is a thing for an established franchise to trust you with something.
Mm-hmm. True.
I do feel that is the case. I mean, I'm not saying specifically in this case, but I do feel there's some weight to that, right? Like I look at, I'm obviously I'm a Sega kid from back in the day, right? And I look at something like Streets of Rage 4, and you got Dutemo and all those guys that were like passionate. When you interview, they were passionate Streets of Rage guys. And I'm interviewing, I'm like, look, this is a franchise. Like, you got to do it right. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's like, no. And then to see that vision come to life and be as great as it was.
Yeah, it was good.
And there were steps prior to them getting there. So the hope is because they love Silent Hill so much, right? And because the teams who make it are entrusting them with the franchise. And like you said, you make a great point. They don't got to create a whole new world. They're almost fanboys of the franchise that have the source material all in front of them. And now it's just like, okay, don't mess it up. Make something great. And my only issue, honestly, with the game is I just want it technically to look good. I want it graphically to look good. Right. That was another issue I had with the medium. I didn't feel for as next gen only as it was. I wasn't wowed. I want to see some graphical fidelity, and I'm pulling for them. I'm hoping they can pull it off. But to Maddie's point, yes, they have a lot to prove. The medium was not, people wasn't shouting from the rooftops for it. It was okay.
Yeah,
that kind of deal. So that's what I meant.
You're so kind, Cog.
I know I'm nice.
Last question of the show goes to Nandin Patil. Hey, X-Boys. Even though I don't own an Xbox console or a PC, PS4 guy here, I found myself listening to the podcast because of Maddie and Carrick. When Carrick was announced that he was leaving, I thought it would reduce my interest in the show. But it turns out Cog is an excellent co-host with his pleasing and calming voice, not to mention his chemistry with Maddie. Excited to see how the show evolves under this new pairing. I have something I want to add to that after I'm done reading the question. My question is, what one PlayStation first-party studio would you want in the Xbox first-party team and vice versa? I think Naughty Dog will be great for the Xbox team as they can make those big third-person action-adventure games with deep and meaningful narratives. On the other side of the spectrum, I think Machine Games, id Software, would be a good fit for PlayStation since their first-party is lacking in FPS games. Love, Nandin. I just want to say one thing is when we were on the search after Carrick announced he was leaving, it was tough on one end because Carrick does something very specifically that is tough to address. But my mindset is Cog does something that no one else does as well. So I hope that those out there, and I know, shouldn't even say I hope, I can tell now by the feedback, I know those out there who listen understand that. But that was my mindset, is not to replace Carrick. Carrick does something specific. It's why we had him on the show.
Carrick's a beast.
Yeah, love Carrick, right? And so when we had to seek out that replacement, it was like, who's not just going to try to emulate Carrick, who's like their own person, who has their own thoughts and does their own thing expertly. And that's what Cog was. So I just wanted to put that out there as a voice of support.
Much appreciated. It's all love with the Dukes.
Of course.
My guy. Salute.
So Cog, you got the option of one first party studio from PlayStation. You're going to just pluck them out and say, like, this is ours now. It's a fantasy sports moment here, right? Like you're making
Yeah,
the impossible trade.
yeah, making it. Listen, I mean, Nandon kind of stole my record. I was like, Naughty Dog was. I got history with Naughty Dog. I love him. You know what I mean? So, you know, and y'all know hashtag just one. I'm gonna die on the Xbox first party sword till I get it. Right? Naughty Dog would be the perfect for that.
You
You know
get
what I'm
exactly
saying?
what you want.
That's what I get. Like what? Like
Yeah.
so. Yeah, it's that. You know, if I'm a cheat a little, only because I love ninja games so much. You know, look, Sucker Punch, man, I was impressed. You know what I'm saying? I was very impressed with that entry, and I'm very finicky with my ninja games. And let's just say they got me excited because they brought Tenchu like stealth. And then I love they really dove in. They did the historical background, and the Ghost of Tsushima is just, I mean, I love that game,
It's
man.
so good,
So
yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean. So it's
You
just,
playing the
and
next
for me,
expansion next month?
oh, you know
Oh,
it. I'm on
absolutely.
Iki Island, baby.
Man, let's go.
I'm going. You know what
There we
I'm saying?
go.
So yeah, like for me, you know, as a person who struggles with open world games as I'm older because I get intimidated. There's so much to do. The thing that they did well that I don't feel a lot of games do is that they had that thing with the wind mechanic, right? So it's leading me to go to where, and then as you go, it's like, oh, there's a fun. I call it like natural exploration as opposed to icon overload on the map, right? And I love that about them. So my three would either be that. I'll cheat. I'll give a third one. I mean, Insomniac kind of got away, you know, and Insomniac was, man, they're pretty talented.
Yeah.
They're pretty talented. So that's what I got on the Sony side. You know, that Microsoft. For Sony to get something from Microsoft, man, I mean, I don't think the Coalition gets enough credit, man. Coalition, they're beasts at what they do.
Yeah.
And I'm team co-op. I'm team co-op. I'm a co-op guy. I love, okay, so I didn't know, like, I'm with you. Like, I love, it's something to be said. You play with your buddy, and all of Gears games have kind of been built on that foundation of, you know, let's get it going. Let's, you know, us two, and a fully fleshed narrative. That's another thing. Most co-op games sometimes don't have a good narrative to kind of mix to have two players and stuff like that. So I would probably go there, you know. But what about you? What's your choices for each side?
If Xbox could pluck one studio from PlayStation, I'm probably see Insomniac's my favorite for them for obvious reasons. I love Ratchet. I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's my favorite comic book hero. So like, yeah, if they could,
you Spidey guy,
absolutely. So if they could get that, oh, of course. But my pick, I'm gonna have to lean into you a little bit here. Is it's got to be Sucker Punch. I just think Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, it's funny because I'm not a big fan of Infamous Second Son, but
me neither.
But Ghost of Tsushima flipped the script for me so much for them, in my opinion of them, because they made Sly Cooper one of my favorite franchises as a child. I replayed that for a video in the last couple of months. Still incredible. Still an all-timer for me. And then you go into Infamous, and Infamous 1 and 2 are fantastic. And then Infamous Second Son rolls around. For me, something was just missing. I still, honestly, to this day, can't really put my finger on it. It's not a bad game. It's got all the elements. I think it might be the characters. Just something, there wasn't that heart there for me. But then Ghost of Tsushima rolls around. I'm like, man, they still got it. This game is excellent on a musical level, especially. I got to shout that out. But the world, the exploration, it rethought a lot of things while taking familiar formulas like we've seen in maybe a Ubisoft game, but making them single player friendly and not overwhelming. Respects your time, good side stories. I mean,
the Legend Quest, bro.
Yes, I know, right? Just the multiplayer component, just doing leagues and above and beyond what it's got to be. So I look at Sucker Punch. I'm like, God damn! And if Xbox could just pull them over and be like, let's take Sly Cooper out of the grave while we're at it, right? And just let's pull that over, and that's something that would, if there's something that would make me scream into my microphone as loud as Knights of the Old Republic comes back, it would be like that Sly Cooper is back in any way, shape, and form beyond like a mobile game. But
of course, yes. No Splinter Cell treatment.
Yeah, please. That'd be my pick. On the other side of the spectrum, PlayStation taking an Xbox studio.
Yeah, what you got?
I'm thinking PlayStation wants to take id Software. I'm thinking, I don't think machine games, because we're seeing them lean into Indiana Jones, which I am guessing, we don't know, but I'm guessing will be third person. So I'm leaning to id Software, like just your hardcore, fluid, beautifully crafted first person shooter. It's the one thing that they're missing. And I don't know if it's such a big hole they need to address it, but because I don't know how hungry PlayStation fans are for it. They're just eating up third-party open-world games constantly.
That's a good point.
PlayStation doesn't seem in a rush to, and they've literally abandoned Killzone to then make that Killzone developer do third-person open-world stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's very true. Yeah.
I don't know how much they feel desperate to address that, but if they were, I would say id Software, but I'm gonna sidestep that a little bit as well, because if I'm placed, I feel like this is the sensible choice, but if I'm PlayStation, I'm actually going to take Arcane. You get your first person energy there, but you're not getting first person shooting. You're getting first person simulations. Like you're getting your powers, that open level exploration, that replayability, that character crafting, but it's still in first person. And I feel like that's something that fits that PlayStation energy. And I guess in a way they must agree because they're doing Deathloop console exclusivity. But hey, that would be my pick personally. Get a little of id, or I would say, at least if I'm in the seat.
I like it.
Give me
Good
that
point
Arcane.
On the first person stuff too. Yeah.
Those are all our questions though, Cog.
Yo.
It was a pretty good show, if I do say so myself.
I would agree.
Hell yeah.
The Duke's in the building. For real.
So we hope all of you enjoyed episode 27 of Defining Duke. And if you got this deep and you want to let us know, hashtag this week. Hashtag this week.
What we doing? Just simple last time.
Yeah, right.
We'll let you rock. What we doing?
Part of me wants to tap into aggressively boring, but
but that's
a little wrong.
Yeah, that's a little much, DD.
It's a little wrong.
Let's see. It's a good one.
I just always sift through our topics, right? Like I just throw out a word and let's see here. A lot of reports we did this show, a lot of Bioware talk.
Yeah.
Dead Space.
The
Cloud. The Cloud was a pretty big. DD in the clouds?
No, let me see. I just don't like they don't flow smooth though.
Yeah, right.
We need like Civil was good. That's because it flow. We did do a lot of cloud. We did a lot of studio talk. I'm bad with these hashtags, man.
I know, right? And what's worse is that because we don't plan obviously the conversation evolves, so we can't plan the hashtag because it might just.
You gotta be thinking about it now, moving forward, so we're not stuck.
I just like to see how many people finish the show, right?
I know, right? That's true.
We don't know, DD.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know this week. Hashtag
we don't know.
Hashtag we don't know, DD. Otherwise, we'll be here for another hour. So hey. Let us know if you got this deep, whether it's on Twitter, you got our handles on screen, or in the comments. We just want to see if you finished the show. You finished what you started. It's a real test of your character. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Cog, thank you once again for your time, your presence, your energy this week. It was a blast. And until episode 28, catch all of you next time, all right? Peace out.
Peace.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.